There it goes. Maybe. Okay, I'm going to assume it's working. Kind of had a little bit of a hiccup here. Let me pop on my... Hey everybody, let me pop on my chat. And we'll get cracking. So one thing I totally forgot last time, somebody asked a question early, which was to go over teeth and mouth bags. Let me know if you can hear me okay and you can see me okay. I'm kind of dubious to my connection. Okay, good. Okay, so I've got ZBrush up. Let me verify that real quick. Let me type to these guys, never mind. And we're good to go. Okay, so let me load up my female we've been working on here that I've been neglecting. The sci-fi female here. And let's grab her head, shoot her to the top, and we'll talk a little bit about teeth. And we talked about mouth bags already, so I don't need to go into that. But we can certainly talk about tongue and teeth because she's going to need them anyways. Cool. So, tongues and teeth. We're going to go over a lot of different options here, but probably the easiest one, if you just want to start out with the teeth that have the right kind of draft and you can kind of set in there really quickly, is just, you know, use the tools you have available to you. Go into your trusty Ryan King's Line skeleton here, and we'll just drag this thing out. We've got the skeleton selected. I'm going to do a quick delete other. And boom, we have a bunch of teeth we can have. So if I just grab all of these, plus a little bit of the skull, do Control-Shift-A, do a quick delete hidden, geometry modify topology delete hidden. And we have instant teeth that we can then go ahead and just do a insert skull. Drag this out, hit F, oops, F here. And you're going to see the skull's really tiny down there because I put her at centimeter scale if I wanted to hop into Marvelous Designer. So I'm going to select that skull here, and let's try doing a deformation unify. And then we'll just take a size, and we'll just size it down really quickly. It's a little bit faster than trying to go in there and use your transpose scale and stuff. Hey, everybody. So if I go into transparency a little bit here, I can go ahead and scale this down. And you can kind of use this. It's nice to have the skull in relation to the teeth, so you can kind of actually go in here and just kind of position, you know, where the eyes would be, where the teeth would be. And I think my head is rotated a little bit this way, more so than the skeleton here. So you can kind of go through here and just position where you want the teeth to go. Preferences, edit, turn off align cursor to surface, and now you can kind of just position those teeth. Go out of transparency mode, and you can kind of just see, you can turn on ghost, and the teeth kind of fit right in there in the lips. And we don't have gums yet, but we can go ahead and make her some gums really quickly. And this is just one method. We're going to go over several methods, but again, this is an easy method to start with. So let's go out of transparency mode. We'll go into solo mode here. If I want to separate these teeth out from the rest of the skull, probably the quickest way to do that is you can go in there to your poly grouping menu. You can do an auto groups, and then all the teeth will be their own individual groups. Probably, I'm going to take my select lasso, grab a little piece of the jaw and the head here, do Control-Shift-A, which is visibility, grow all, and then just do a split hidden. And now we've got the skull, we've got the teeth separated out, and we're good to go. So we got this, and if we want to use this skull here as like kind of a start to the gums, which I would probably also do, and I'm going to do all this stuff manually as well. But I can kind of just cheat a little bit, and we'll take this here, and we'll take this here, and we'll just kind of use these as a starting point for our gums. So we'll go ahead and take this here, and get rid of that. Just holding that Control-Shift and then Alt, and then we can do a delete hidden. Let's go ahead and do a quick save here. And let's go ahead and Dynamesh these things together. And let me go ahead and hide my OBS, it's bugging me. So then, what am I doing here? Resolution, Dynamesh, turn off blur, turn off project, and then just Dynamesh these together at some sort of resolution here. Just enough, and then do a mirror and weld. And now we've got kind of top gums going, bottom gums going. Because they're separated, I can go in here and now I can do an auto groups. And then if I want to, I can split this one off. I could do a group split here underneath the split menu, or I can just isolate one and then split that out. So now I've got, let's go ahead and just look at what I've got going here. So I've got top gums, bottom gums, and teeth. If I want to do top teeth and bottom teeth, again, probably the simplest thing is just grab your select lasso, grab a little bits of them, Control-Shift-A, split those off, and now you've got top teeth, gums, all that good stuff. Let's raise that resolution just a bit here. Delete hidden. There we go. And now at this point, it's just a matter of going in here and kind of just smooth this out. If you don't need this little piece of the palette here, you can just delete hidden, re-dynamesh that, and you're kind of good to go. Now let me pull up some reference of a mouth, because I don't look at mouths all day long. And we'll kind of refine this a little bit. So just looking at how teeth and gums look generally. Let me grab, these are all a little bit more medical than I need. Come on, somebody back your lips up. That'll work. Ooh, some of these are pretty gross. So it looks like, hey everybody, thanks for showing up. So it looks like whenever, you've got gums and you got teeth, these gums, since it's part of the hard palate here, or the soft palate, I forget what it's called, but basically these aren't gums, these are part of the skeleton. So what I'm going to do is just drop these gums down a little bit here, and I'm also going to click on the teeth here, and let's see what they look like maybe with a dynamic subdiv on. You can hit D and Shift D to kind of turn that on, and they're just decimated, it looks like, so not super duper nice, but we can kind of get a better idea of what these are going to look like when they're subdivided, and actually they're fine. I think that'll work fine. So we can go through here, and again we're just going to pull these gums down up over our teeth here, and then we can go through here with our standard brush or our clay brush and just start backing them off where the gums kind of go in between the teeth. So when you go in and floss, you get up in there, and then your dentist is happy for you. They don't yell at you when you show up for your little cleaning. Same thing for this lower one. I'm going to go ahead and hold down Shift, turn off the poly paint here. So when you hold down Shift and touch any of these little paint brushes as colorize, that'll turn it all off for all of your subtools here. So now you can alt tap between these things, and then we can go ahead and get rid of this little piece back here, delete hidden. And I apologize again for I have a sheet that I have for questions here. I can't always promise that I'm going to answer all the questions here, because sometimes I'll have stuff to do, but I totally just had a brain fart and didn't write it down, and I went to bed that night, and then I woke up in a cold sweat, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't answer the mouth question. I just felt bad all week. So here I am, and now we've got nice pair of gums, and you can get as crazy as you want to with this thing if you want to go in here. And I think these things end up looking a little bit like, if you kind of rub your tongue against the roof of your mouth, you kind of got this thing going on a little bit, so you can kind of start blocking that in, and that'll just kind of be a nice block in. And once you've done a beautiful let's see, delete hidden, dynamesh, there we go. Once you've done a beautiful set of teeth and gums, feel free to never do them again. Just modify them for whatever character you're going to be working on, even if it's a giant or a princess or whatever you're doing, creature. You can usually get away with just modifying pre-existing teeth. Now these aren't very stylized teeth, they're pretty realistic, so you might need to do a couple sets, but for the most part I think this will work. So let's go ahead and turn her on here, transparency mode, and let's see. So if we want to position them, what I can do is if I want to see it all together, I'll hit Control W on all these polygroups here, and that's just going to give them, whoops, one too far down, their own polygroup, so I can easily group split them. I don't want to split the parts because it's going to split all the teeth off into separate parts, so this is probably just the most economic way to do this. Then I'm just going to merge these things down, which is under your merge menu here. I have a hotkey for that. And now when I go into transparency mode, you can see here's my teeth, and then we'll alt tap the head here, and let's go ahead and rotate her jaw down a little bit. I'm going to drop her resolution down, hold down Control, and actually we'll hit R for rotate, hold down Control. I'm just going to rotate, I'm just going to drag up over her mesh and just kind of mask her bottom jaw out, and then invert that, and we'll just go in here with the move brush, and we'll just invert that here. Let's go up one subdivision level here. So now we can kind of see if the teeth are far enough forward or far enough back. I suppose if we wanted, These look a little bit scary there. Let's go up to subdivision level 2-ish, and I really need to modify these lips. These lips are terrible. Maybe we'll do a little bit of that today. I need to get back in here and continue like refining and sculpting her. I kind of left her after we did the Zeri mesh thing, and now she's kind of in rough shape here. So maybe we'll do a little bit of that. Anyway, so what we can try and do is I'm going to turn on polyframe here. I'm going to do Control Shift. And we've talked about this before too. If you did want to do a move brush, auto masking, topological, change your range to like maybe 1.5, you can just use that to go through here and move your upper lip and your bottom lip here. But if you wanted to do like a jaw selection, let's see if we can do that really quickly. So I'm going to take this here, I'm going to isolate it, go into solo mode, and we're grabbing a bit of her mouth bag and a bit of her upper lip here. So I'm just going to go through here and just really quickly clean out these upper lip bits and possibly this top corner here, this little top corner one here. And we're also getting a little bit of this mouth bag, top mouth bag, which is not ideal. And you can also invert that and see, well, all right, let's try this. R, go ahead and try and get that jaw in there, and then we'll just go ahead and do a hide point. And that'll grab these. We can invert that. And now we can add to the selection just by holding down Alt. Well, I'm adding to the inverted selection here. So now we got a bit of her jaw, and then we can go and get rid of all this, and get rid of all this, and get rid of all this. Hit F to frame. And now we just need to get rid of the top of this mouth bag here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate this. I do want this as my lower jaw here, so I'm going to hit Control W with this visible, if it's going to let me. Maybe it won't. Polygroup. Just do a group visible, Alt G instead of Control W. And then, so we've got that. And now I need to divide my mouth bag in half. So I'm going to isolate that. And then for this mouth bag, I think what I'm going to do is hold down Control Shift, go into Select Lasso, Control Shift tap this top ring here, and just keep doing that to kind of back these things away. There we go. So now I've got bottom mouth bag. I'm not sure why Control W didn't work that one time. So I've got my bottom jaw, my bottom mouth bag, and I can add this little sliver here. Sorry this is taking so long, but polygroups in this little kind of weirdo area. Okay, that'll work good enough. Now I'm going to hit, I'm going to temporarily hide that bottom mouth bag, hit Control W. Let's do, I'm sorry, group visible here. And now we've got this piece here, and then this piece here, because I want to keep the mouth bag separate. And then with those, I can invert that selection, go ahead and Control tap to mask, and now I can just, I'll have that jaw to kind of go back and forth with if I need to, and then I kind of rotate this down, and looks like I've got, hold on, grab this piece here. I think I had some residual, there we go, residual jaw there. And I can go ahead and blur this out as well. I can hold that Control and tap, and that'll blur that out. You can also do that in your masking menu here. You can just go over here and hit the blur mask here. But now we can rotate this thing down. You can invert that, and then you can go in here and move this up. We got a solo mode here. You can see where the teeth are in her mouth, and of course the teeth aren't following, but there you go. And you can set layers to that if you want to just have an open mouth, closed mouth, have the teeth follow. You can turn on and off layers to have them rotate here. But anyways, that's one way to do a mouth. Now if I was doing more of a creature-y type mouth, or just kind of blocking out a mouth for something special, what I would basically do is, let's make something special real quick. Speed sculpt time. So we're going to grab a, let's start with a cylinder. Make polymesh 3D, turn off project, turn off blur, go ahead and dynamesh this thing. I'm going to do a quick size down a little bit, and then hit X to go across that symmetry here, go into trim dynamic, and we'll go ahead and just make something real quick. So We've got a character here. Let's go ahead and clip this down here. And we'll go ahead and scale him up. And we'll go ahead and dig in his eyeballs here. And we'll pop out a nose here, and then we'll pop out a mouth. And this will be his chin, and then his jaw here. And then we'll put in a little bit of an ear and his little cranium. Keep building this up. Let's make this like a Frankenstein dude. All right. Going with our clay brush, we'll build up a nice brow here, cheekbones. We can start dialing in some lips here. And let's go a little bit crazier with our guy here. So he's going to have like a really bizarre, some really strange mouth needs, let's say. So it's going to be like custom mouth. So we'll kind of just build this up here. Okay, so this is our character here, and I'm going to go to Smooth Stronger. And we'll just we can take this up, and that'll be our brow, and then this is our orbit, and then this will be our little fold down here, and then our lips will tuck in. Little Ron Perlman looking guy. And so now, if I want to throw a, and you know what, let's even go even crazier. Let's go, and you know what, to make it even easier, let's do something like this. Let's take our mask lasso. I'm going to pop this entire piece off here. Control W, isolate, oops. Isolate this piece here. Let's go ahead and split it. And then delete hidden, and then we'll inflate this, and we'll go ahead and just pop this jaw, and of course we need to turn on backface masking here. And we'll go ahead and go back to mask pin. And so we got our eyebrow here. It's going to step back to our lower lid. I'm not going to bother putting eyes in this guy since we're just going to be doing like weirdo teeth. We'll give him some room for some eye bags in here. And we'll go ahead and just kind of tuck this back and kind of give him some little cheekbones here. There we go. And then I guess he would have some sort of upper lip here. And we'll just clean this up a little bit. So now it'll be easier. So when in doubt, go ahead and just be like, you know what? In order to make a jaw rotation easier, I'm going to give a metal jaw. And it's as easy as that. Design around your limitations. And just give everybody a metal jaw. Easy peasy. So we've got this thing here, and now we've got this. I'm going to crank up the resolution just a bit. And we can kind of just go to my Damien standard here. And we can kind of start carving this in a little bit more. We can kind of broaden this out and kind of tuck this back. We can start, again, this is just like refining the shapes, not making it so cartoony and bubbly, you know, kind of pulling this back through here. And we got the bottom lid here. We can kind of start digging out, and then the eye bags here. And carve this in, a little philtrum, you know, and I gave him kind of a weird kind of pig nose here, but of course you can change that, no big deal. You can just pop this forward, and you can pop this down. It's easy enough to change. Just go into your move brush here and clay brush. You can use clay tubes, clay buildup if you want to. Use your inflate brush, and you can go forward. Do I have, hold on, curve? I guess not. Perfect. Okay, so we've got something going here. So now in order to give this guy teeth, what we would do is, let me push this back in here. Really deep nostrils in there. What we could do is go ahead and just pop a cylinder in there for his teeth. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go to append a cylinder, and then turn on transparency. And then as I go to deformation size, we're just going to kind of place where his teeth would go. Something like this. And then I'm just going to do a top teeth first. So we'll kind of drop this in here. And I'll go ahead and just Dynamesh this. Make sure I have X symmetry turned on. Do a quick mirror and weld. And then we can kind of stretch this out, kind of get it to fit a little bit. And of course we don't need the back area here, so I can just go ahead and I can clip, or I can trim this back. And you can also use, let's do a clip circle. Oops, there we go. If you cross over that little crossover, it's going to want to pop a circle out. So you're going to need to have that circle not cross over, hold down Alt, and that'll kind of clip that circle back a little bit. So that can be the start of our circle here. If you want to, just go in here with your trim dynamic and just kind of make that a little bit of a better shape. And let's say this is going to be our gums. So we can go in here and kind of soften these up a little bit, smooth them down. And if you want to get an idea of where your teeth are going to go first, you can just extend these down and then go into solo mode and just really quickly kind of just start drawing in your teeth. So like here's my first tooth. And again, let me grab some mouth reference, make sure I don't do anything super weird. So we've got, and also make sure these things are lined up the way you want before you start drawing. Just, you know, if you want them to kind of poke out more at the bottom, do that. And if you want them to be thinner or thicker, you can go thin here with trim dynamic to kind of thick. And let's go ahead and turn on back face masking here. There we go. So now, again, standard brush or Damien standard, you can kind of pull these in, and your teeth are going to be like, you got the two big ones in the front, and then off to the side of those, you're going to have another tooth here, and then you're going to have like your canine teeth, so you can go in here with your snake hook and be like, and then just keep working your way back. So you're going to have a couple thick teeth here. If it's not broad enough, just take mask and just drag out, and then re-Dynamesh. And now you've got plenty of room for however many teeth you want to put in there. I mean, use reference. Find out how many teeth are there. And then we'll go ahead and just use clay to kind of build this up a little bit. And now we can go in here with our standard brush, kind of push these in. And you can go all the way back around with your Damien standard or your standard brush. And kind of pull these in here. And then there's your that gigantic canine here. Let's use our move brush. Oh, I guess I messed that up. Let's try this. Here, 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 and then here. And again, if these aren't broad enough, just mask, move, mask, move. There we go. Now they're wide enough. Dig them in. And there's the kind of the teeth block out. And I'm going to go back in here with my clay brush and kind of give these teeth a little bit of roundness here. And you can also go in here, again, with your Damien standard or your standard brush, kind of dig these in a little bit. And also, I'm trying to feel with my tongue here. As the teeth roots go up, there is kind of a slight divot in here. And then I guess we can go ahead and, since your gums aren't going to go sweeping back like this, you can pull this stuff out if you'd like. So you're going to have kind of a divot in your gums in between your teeth, and then a little bit of a buildup here. And again, this is just quick teeth block out. I'm going to go into my Move Acu and kind of pull these in a little bit here. And then we can go top down, kind of get a look at them. See how they're bending. And we'll go back here. Turn off solo mode here. Now we've got our top teeth here. And he's kind of got a weird face, so I'm going to kind of rotate this back around. You can go in here and you can scale them up or down as needed, push them forward or back as needed. Then if you want to do the bottom teeth, I'm just going to duplicate this one, and we're going to do a mirror in the y-axis, and then push them down this way. And at least we'll have a starting point here. How's everybody doing? How did you split the bottom from his skull? Oh, so when I had this thing here, let's go ahead and we'll do that again. So if I go out of transparency mode here, let's say I want to split this thing too. So let's refine this a little bit. So I've got his jaw here, and it's like, okay, I want this jaw to be like a metallic jaw. It's going to come around here. I'm going to go to my clay brush, kind of build this up here. And let's say behind here, I want the manufacturer to have gone in here and maybe cut a panel through here. So I can like split this off here. So what I can do is, if I want to just go ahead and split this off as one piece, I can go ahead and if you get this nasty stuff here, just let's go ahead and select lasso, delete hidden, Dynamesh. So what you can do is go in here, hold down Control. There's a couple different ways. You could use select lasso and use visibility, kind of like when we were making the jaw on the jaw polygroup on the female. But we can mask this out really quickly, however you'd like, and then Control Alt Tap to sharpen that mask up. And that is underneath the masking menu here. You can just do not blur mask, sharpen mask. Now you can do blur mask or you can do sharpen mask, and you can also do it just with brush clicks out here. So Control Tap to blur, Control Alt Tap to sharpen. And then once you've done that, you can hit Control W to make all these masked parts one single polygroup here. And then I just isolated that, did a quick, and by isolating I mean Control Shift, tap that polygroup. And then you can go over here to your split menu. You can go split hidden. You can also do other splits. There's a group split, split the parts, but in this case, since there's multiple sub polygroups here, it's just cleanest to just isolate this and then just do split hidden points. So now we've got this front piece here. Alt tap between these two different subtools now. You can do a fill holes, or you can just do a Dynamesh and that'll close those up. And you can go through here and you can just inflate or do whatever you'd like to refine those pieces. And then we've got this piece here. We can just Dynamesh those. So now we have two separate pieces that we can now kind of mess around with, like so. So that was just, you know, masking off the bottom of his face. Now we've got those two pieces here. Let me go ahead and pull this back here. No problemo. So now we've got the top teeth here, and now we've got bottom teeth here. Obviously bottom teeth don't look like that, but it's going to be pretty quick to just kind of change these, I think. So let me take a pair of bottom teeth here. There's a good one. Nice scientific diagram. So on the bottom teeth here, it looks like these are smaller. So I'm just going to use my move brush here. The canines, I mean, I made them very pronounced, like vampire canines, or like my border collies. So we can kind of trim those down here. And if these aren't thin enough for you, you can go in here to your pinch brush and you can just kind of pinch all of these things together here. You can also pinch this way if you want to pinch them together and make them smaller. So yeah, it just looks like they're lower and also much, much thinner. So I can kind of just go through here, and you can also just redraw them, just smooth it out, and then go through here and do maybe a, so we got these small ones here. like so. And then these ones here. And then, yeah, they keep going back. And then there's some thick ones in here, which we kind of need to build these up. So instead of pinching, I'm going to inflate. So we'll use our inflate brush here and then drag. And now we can kind of just punch in those ones here. So now we've got top and bottom. Now on mine, I got kind of an overbite. So I'll just push these back. We'll have art imitating life here. And we'll just pull those on the inside. So now those will reach right up in there, and we'll turn everything back on. And there we go. So now, obviously, tongues are easy. You can append a sphere. I'm just going to go to, let's go BI brush insert sphere here. Let's drag it right out. We'll do a split masked points, and we'll go into transparency mode. And let's just show this stuff here. There we go. So tongue, like so, just using transpose to kind of get this thing down here. Because I inserted it on a Dynamesh, I already have Dynamesh property, so I can just control drag. And now I can go in here. I still feel like AccuCurve is turned on this thing. It seems like it's pulling out the points. I must be just going crazy. So now we can go in with our Damien standard here. And we can kind of just do a split here. And, you know, I usually do. It's been a while since I've done actually a human tongue. Accidentally turn. Whenever you're sculpting on a Dynamesh and you're noticing it's like kind of slow, kind of non-responsive, and it's like, wow, it's only 16,000 polygons. Why is it going so slow? Make sure you didn't accidentally hit D, which is turning on dynamic subdiv. So just hit Shift D. It'll turn that off. And now it should be a lot more responsive. The only reason I bring that up is because I just did that. I'm going to go in here and inflate, or you can pinch this line down the middle, re-Dynamesh, smooth. This tongue's pretty simple. If we wanted to do like a... let's go ahead and like tilt this up maybe and tilt this down. And we can go in here and put in some like wrinkles in here around the side, and we can put in some like some spikes. Just use our snake hook here. We'll make him really, really appealing. Like if this was a tongue for like a Mortal Kombat character or something. You can go in here and just kind of start digging that in. I'm going to crank up my Z intensity a bit. Turn off lazy radius, and we can use our inflate brush or a clay brush, kind of build these things up, and then use Damien standard, go in here and just kind of do some wrinkles around the side, and then clay build up, and do some gnarly stuff with your tongue. Make a little weird creature tongue, like so. I don't know. It might be an experience. But yeah, I probably wouldn't either. So we got this. We got his teeth blocked out. Now let's say you wanted to kind of refine this here. If we wanted to, we could... Making a tooth, if you wanted to just go through and start making these teeth, it's also another fairly simple experience or thing you can do, especially with Z meshers. So what we might do... Let's do it this way first. So brush insert BI, we'll insert a sphere. Now I want to make sure these spheres don't overlap. I can do one tooth at a time. I can turn off X and just play it safe. The reason why I don't want them to is if I make them cross over and then try to pull them apart, they'll be sticky. So I'm just going to start with a sphere, and I'm going to go into my move brush, and instead of having just move, I'm going to turn on AccuCurve, and I'm just going to pull out these corners to kind of pull them out to kind of flat shapes here. And then I'll turn that off, so you can kind of use move Accu to turn those shapes. And that's the kind of the space I want them to take up. Now, of course, you can go up here and just like make them take up roots or all that stuff like that. But what I'm going to do is just do a quick split mask points here, and then we can kind of start shaping these teeth. We can go thin or thicker to a little bit thinner maybe. And then if you Dynamesh at a low enough resolution, right now it's at 400. I'm going to crank it up just a little bit just to keep the resolution high enough to where these things aren't going to touch. I can also go in here with my pinch brush and kind of pull these together. Or like I said, I can just work on them separately as I go. So I can kind of use H polish and we'll kind of go in here and polish these teeth down. Let's go ahead and give them a ridge here, and we'll go through here with our clip brush and we'll kind of clip these to a flatter surface here. And let's crank up the resolution a little bit more. There we go. So H polish and clipping, and as you get to the other teeth, I'm not going to do all the teeth, but as you get to them, you can, it'll be easier because you won't have to worry about these things crossing over. So then, you know, these teeth are blocked out. Let's go ahead and just push these back. And there we go. So once you get all of the teeth put in there, and I would probably, again, just steal them from the skeleton and start with those as kind of my block out shapes. You could then get rid of these teeth, which you don't need anymore. So this one will be more of a, let me do a select lasso from the side, and I'll just go ramp, ramp, beep, boop, rap, ramp. Get rid of all those. Go ahead and do a delete hidden, close holes. This is kind of a complex shape. Hopefully it doesn't, and I might have had something weird. Let's see how it handles it. And save often, quick save. But yeah, we can close holes or just Dynamesh, which probably would have been a better idea because there's some really weird little flaky geometry stuff I have going on. It's like that. So in this case, let's do a quick save here. And let's do a control drag. There we go, much better. And then let's do a quick mirror and weld. And we can go ahead and like maybe just inflate this up a little bit. So now we've got some creepy gums going. And now, we can move these together. And I'm just going to turn off Dynamesh. And if we move these together, I don't want them to touch necessarily, just because, again, I don't want them to get sticky together. But I can start pulling these down, and then I'm going to go back in here and just kind of pull these back up and kind of get that look going. There's on the, we talked about this last time too, there's a, if you Google ZBrush Central Insert Multi-Mesh Repository, somebody actually went in and made a curve brush where you could go ahead and make a string of teeth in a shape and it would drag out the teeth for you. We can recreate that pretty quickly, I think. It seems like it will be quick in my head, so let's see how quick it's actually going to be. Let's see, we'll do, I want to steal these teeth, so let's go ahead and grab these top teeth here, Control Shift A, and then I'm going to invert that. I'm going to grab a little piece of this, invert that, Control Shift A, and then grab a little piece of that, invert that, Control Shift A, and now I can just do delete hidden. So now we've got all of these teeth lined up. So if I wanted to add these teeth to a curve brush and have them populate, you can do an insert mesh brush, and when you're doing that, oh, I can have it cycle through in the right order. So I just have to basically put them in the right order. You know what? Let's just do half, because you can do half from one side, half to the other. You don't have to do a full set. So I'm going to turn off X, and we're just going to Control Shift A and then delete. And then this one we are going to go ahead and do. I could go ahead and do a split the parts, but it's going to split them in an order I don't necessarily want. So instead, what I'm going to do is do an auto groups, and then I'm going to Control Shift click this back one and split hidden, and then just tap this one, Alt tap that one, and do another split hidden. I guess I could also do a invert that and then split hidden, and that'll make it a little bit easier. So that way I don't have to keep reselecting that. And split hidden. Okay, so we've got all these teeth lined out. I've got them going from big to small in the front. Now I want to capture all of these from this direction, I believe. Yeah, I might have to play with this. We'll see how it goes. I'm not gonna. It may not turn out to be the perfect brush just right off the bat, but I'll at least start it, and then you guys can finish it. But it's something that's interesting, and we can talk about curve brush functionality and cycling through. So we've got these pieces here, and so what I want to do is quick save, and then if I want to capture all of these, I guess one thing we can do is this, we can put them all, do I want to drag them on and have them all populate in the front towards me, or do I want to drag them from the bottom and populate them out that way? Let's do it from the bottom. Okay, so from the bottom, I'm going to go here, and so I'm just going to look at this tooth just to make it easy. And we're looking at it right from the bottom here. So I'm going to go to brush. Trying to think if I need to rotate this thing or not. I probably should have tried this out before I hopped on, right? Okay, let's try this. I'm going to go into rotate here, and I'm just going to rotate these all forward. So they're going to kind of follow in a line. Okay, that's why quick save. So going to quick save here, just load up that last quick save. And that'll get rid of any weirdo history we might have on these objects here. So now it'll be safe to go through here and kind of, because sometimes occasionally it'll hold on to some weird stuff here. And then this thing, yeah, I'll rotate this one out. I'm basically making them all point in one direction here. And because they're already in an arc, it's not quite as straightforward. So basically when I go to capture these things, they're all kind of facing this camera direction. Let's see how this goes. So again, we're going to take this one, we're going to go to brush, create insert mesh, new, and then we'll just cycle down through here. And we're going to go to brush, create insert mesh, append. Skip that note until next time. Thank you. This one, this one. Oh, these aren't in order. And then brush, create insert mesh, append, and then brush, create insert mesh, append. Now you could create insert multi-mesh, but I'm not sure what order it's going to put them in. I need them in a specific order, I think. So again, I'm going to go to brush, create insert multi-mesh. It should, brush, create insert mesh, append. Now it should append them top to bottom, but, and I guess I could name them too. Hold on, let me just make sure these are in the right order, because that would be faster. There we go. So here, 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 here. They're all in the right order. I want to capture them from this angle. Let's just do it. Let's go brush, create insert multi-mesh. And now we've got an insert multi-mesh. If we hit M, we've got all the teeth lined up, A to H. So as we're dragging this out, you can just go through here and hit M, pick the brush you want to, or the teeth you want to drag out, and drag it out. Now with insert multi-brush, what you can do is, you can go to your, let's see, we got our brush here, and we want to go to modifiers. And under your modifiers here, you're going to have a multi-mesh selector and variations. And so if you hover over here and hit Control, it will cycle through meshes when your insert mesh is selected. So let's change up our variation, multi-mesh variation selector mode. So 0 static, 1 is going to be cycle forward. So if I want to cycle from the first one to the last one, I'm going to crank this up to 1. And then our variations are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you can tell it where to multi-mesh select. So you can say where in your stack it starts from. I think I'm going to start with 0. And then I think that'll work. So now, if I just go to a cylinder here, make it a polymesh 3D, and then have that brush selected here, should cycle through from the first one to the second one. No, let's see what it's doing here. First one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one, eighth one. Okay, so I'm going to have it cycle through by 1, starting with going all through all 8 variations, and then it'll just cycle forward. Now you can set that up to cycle, where is that at? You can do cycle forward, cycle backwards, or random. I think here. Let's see, variations. Let's cycle forward here. Yeah. Here. Let me see, M, 3 big, all the way to small. So I think that's working. Anyway, with that working, what you can do, I think, is go up here to your stroke menu, and then you can do curve, turn on curve mode, and then as you drag these things out, oh, it's dragging them all out at once. You would have to, it's not going to cycle through. These are all going to be individual meshes. I'll show you a brush that works. If we go to brush, insert, I know it's been a while since I've gone through those kind of properties there, but we're going to go to insert curve, and you're going to see in here there's a vine, 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 4. So if I click that one and then just drag this vine off, let's see what these settings are. You're going to see as I drag a vine here, it's kind of cycling. You see how it looks random, how these leaves are kind of sprouting. So if we go look at this thing, let's see what this thing has going on. So it has 4 variations. So if we hit M here, you're going to see it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 variations, and then starts over. Let's see, its selector mode is 3 random. Multi-mesh selector is at 0, and then it starts at number 26, multi-mesh select. So it's going to start at number 26. It's going to cycle through 4 randomly. So that's basically how this thing works. So you can feel free to make a toothbrush that works, a tooth curve brush that works. But I'm bored with that already. So basically, start out with a skull, put gums around it. You're already pretty much done. That's probably the easiest way. I'm trying to think of any more ways that might be interesting to you, but I think I'm all out of mouth sculpting stuff. So let's, like I said, I've been neglecting my sci-fi female here, so let's do a little bit of work on that. We had a lot of fun on my channel. If you go to twitch.com/Pavmike, you can go check out my Twitch channel, and we were doing some kind of cool concepting stuff, and I think that would help for Our Lady here because I started blocking out her kind of mech armor here, and we can use ZBrush to do a lot of this work in 2D, and it's actually really, really fun to do. So what I'm going to do is the lady here, I've changed her pose, so I'm going to just put her head back here, and we're going to do a little bit of mech concept sculpting here. So if I go grab her body, I'm just going to use kind of her tech suit as reference here. I'm going to hide everything else. That'll work. So this is basically her body here, and we want to put a tech suit on her. Actually, I do want to have her helmet and stuff showing just to kind of see where that stuff goes. But all this other stuff here, I can kind of just update. So I'm just alt-tapping these and then touching the name and then turning these things off. So let's see. We're going to hide this one. There we go. So we can kind of start concepting where we want this stuff to go, and we'll go ahead and just use ZBrush for that. A lot of different ways to do this. If I want to have this as reference while I'm painting, what I can do is have her showing, and then I'm just going to go to append a plane 3D, and we're just going to go down here, select, and when we do append, it just throws it down at the bottom, which is useful sometimes. Hit W, hit X to go across X symmetry here, and we'll just pull this up. And I can, again, just do a deformation size, and we'll give ourselves plenty of breathing room here. We're going to run out of space, but I'm going to show you a way to project to fix that. And so we got this lady here. We can put the plane, we can put it right in the middle if we want. We can put it in front, or we can put it behind. Doesn't really matter, whichever one works for you. I'm just going to throw it out front here. And we're just going to use this plane to kind of concept sketch on in x-axis, x symmetry here. So we can turn on transparency. You can turn on ghost off and on, whichever one kind of gives you the better outline. And then with this polyplane, I'm going to go into geometry and then turn off the smooth modifier so I can keep the edges sharp. Doesn't really matter, but something more to talk about here. I'm going to divide this plane up quite a bit. And by default, if you go to brush, BP. There's pen brushes in here with RGB turned on, and you can choose a dark color. Well, first what we need to do, go to a white, choose flat color, and then just do choose mRGB up to 100, go to color, fill object, and then now you can choose like a dark gray here, and then you can go ahead and just start using like the pen brushes here, or let's see, brush BP. There's a ton of pen brushes you can use. If you also hit the comma key and go to your brushes here, LMNO pen. There's a lot of things in here, but what I'm going to do is go to my standard brush, dot stroke, turn on a square alpha, go to RGB, intensity of 100 for now, and we can just start drawing like this. So if we turn on Ghost, we can kind of see outline in here, so we can kind of see detail in the middle of her. And we can just start concepting out where we might want stuff to go. So if I want like big old gun arms here, what I can do is basically just put these things in here, and then it's going to have like a support system through here, and it's going to go to like big kind of mech hands here that are kind of overlap her hands. And on here, she should be, yeah, she's up on her toes here, so she's got high heels on. What we can do is kind of put in a chest harness here, and if we want to, we can put in like big support structure here for her harness, and we can go up over her head if we want to, or put in a big rotation system here. It kind of doesn't matter. We're going to go over a bunch of different techniques. I'm just kind of blocking something in now. This can continue down like hip support here, and she's going to be basically standing in like a little platform here, and it's actually going to go down to the real feet here. So we can kind of put in some knees and then some thighs here, and then kind of carry these down, and then these can be like big old mech feet that are just kind of like so. So that's one way you can do it. And then at this point, it's just a matter of painting. So we're going to get further into painting in just a bit. You can also, let's go to RGB at 100, color, fill object. Actually do white, color, fill object. If you also wanted to, you could do kind of, and you don't have to do a square alpha. You can do no alpha at all. You can change your focal shift. You can also do, and we're going to get into this in a little bit, you can do drag dot and just kind of drag alphas out there if you want to. And of course we have X on, so it's X symmetry. You can also do X and Y symmetry. And is it going to do it? Transform. Let's turn on L sim because we moved it. Now we can do X and Y symmetry, or we can do, let's do radial symmetry here. And you can do all the sorts of cool stuff you can do with all that types of symmetry here. But we're just going to keep X for now. And you can also go in here, and you can kind of start drawing in like, well, what if I wanted her tech suit to kind of be like this and maybe like this? So you've got her behind there. And if he's like, you know what, I don't want to see her helmet, you can just alt-click all these helmet pieces and start turning off a bunch of that stuff if you don't want to see it. And then alt-tap back onto your thing here. And now you can kind of see, you know what if I made her helmet like this and like this? You can kind of start drawing it in like so. And you'll still have her there as reference as you're kind of designing out, you know, your tech suit here. Go through here and pull this out and maybe put some like rubber where her knees would go so she can bend a little bit easier, and then put a cool design through here. And you can also, if you're so inclined, you can go through here and just kind of paint her first. It's like, okay, that's basically what she's going to be. So you can do a line drawing, or you can kind of do a painting. And if you want to kind of knock this back a little bit, you can kind of put our thumbs in here a little bit if you want to also. You can turn down your RGB a bit and then go to color, white, color, fill object, and kind of knock back those grays just a bit. And I'm going to turn on her colorize and make her, I'm going to make her stick with matte cap gray here. That way I can always see her detail here. And then that should have, let's go to here. Oh, and then we got to go to flat color here. There we go. So now you can kind of go in here and just kind of start painting the designs. And how did I lose her? Let's push her back. Let's turn off ghosts. Let's maybe push this back here. Oh yeah, that inherited everything. So I'm going to just hide this. I'm just going to go with the these two pieces here. And then turn on ghosts. Looks like I kind of lost her a little bit. Let's see, color, fill, flat color, mRGB. There we go. Okay, and now I can start painting. Okay, so I'm gonna start painting her in a little bit. And then we can go in here and then we can just sample like white and start painting in this kind of thing, or if we want to put in maybe LED lights or maybe Tron stuff, or divide her up like that. So now you can do a little bit more paintery kind of thing if you want. You can, and that's what I did on my channel. But since we're on Pixologic channel, we're going to do it the Pixologic way. And I would argue it's not easier to do in Photoshop because Photoshop sucks for mirroring across x-axis. I do have a program in there that will, like, you hit a button and you can draw, and then you can put your ruler line in there and you can mirror it across. But yeah, it's horrendous for trying to just do something as simple as, you know, sketching this thing out. Just across X symmetry here. So another thing we can do is grab some alphas. Now we can pull in alphas from any number of things that we want to do. One easy way is just to drag out a primitive here. Let's go to matcap gray and go into edit mode. So what we can do is if we go up here, let's go to our brushes, beta tester brushes, miscellaneous, and hit M. We can grab any of these things here. I'm just going to choose one and go to make polymesh 3D, go to geometry, what am I looking for? Modify topology, and then do a quick mesh from brush. And now we can kind of just steal alphas from this thing. In fact, if you want to have like all of these meshes from a brush, let's do that really quickly. Let's do a, here's one way to do it. You can make a polyplane here, make it a polymesh 3D, and just like we learned with our cycling through, let's do variations, I don't know, a bunch, and then we'll cycle through. So now when we go to brush, insert, it should just cycle through these ones. So we'll do this one. Let's see. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and then back around to the beginning. So now that we've got all of these, we can hide the plane. We can just go ahead and delete hidden. We can do split. We can do split the parts, but it looks like they're all in one group, which is nice. So in this case, I'm going to do a group split. And then to make them all kind of unified size, I can pick one, go down here to deformation, unify, and then repeat to other. And now we basically have a working brush or a working subtool, so we can go in through and cycle these things. So if I want to steal alphas from these, one way to do it is just pick one. And I'm going to go here to my document, and we're going to go to the back, and I'm going to click a black background. And then we're also going to change our range down to 0. So we get a nice black background here. If you want to have really high resolution, you can also go into document and make your resolution much more. But in this case, I'll do that in a bit. I'm going to hit D, and we're going to change this from a white color and go to flat color here. So we can do we can position this on our document, do alpha grab doc, but really I can do a really quick kind of run through of all of these things. So I'm going to hit Shift S to do a snapshot, change the angle, do Shift S, change the angle, do Shift S. I can cycle through here, grab another alpha here. Let's find something with a little shape to it. We'll do Shift S. We'll go here, Shift S. And now if we want to go ahead and grab these and go out of edit mode, and again, there's one of a million ways to do this. It's just one. We're going to use mRGB Z grabber, and I'm going to hold down Shift if you want to make it square, or if you don't care if it makes it square, you can just hold down space bar and that'll kind of move it around. And what we're basically doing is alpha is grabbing the height information. So we're going to temporarily grab the texture as our alpha, and then we're going to convert it to alpha in just a minute. So again, we'll just kind of select this here, throw it into our alpha. Grab this one here, and then grab this one here. So this is just a way to use geometry, pre-existing geometry libraries you might have access to go ahead and make quick alphas. So for all of these things here, you can just select them, and then you can go to make alpha. Grab this one, select make alpha. Grab this one, make alpha. This one, make alpha. Now, of course, you also probably have access to an alpha library. I can go up here into industrial and I can just double click any of these. You're going to want to set them up as, I think, 16-bit grayscale in Photoshop, or when you capture them in here, export them as 16-bit grayscale, and then you can just double tap any of these and that'll throw them into your alpha here. So that's a couple different ways to just kind of grab some quick alphas. And now that we have that, we can go back to our drawing here. And now we can go grab any of these alphas we have here. And then we'll do maybe a drag dot with dark gray. And now we can just kind of go and drag these things around. We'll change our focal shift to -100. So we can kind of start dragging these things in. Maybe grab another alpha here. And then maybe grab another piece here. So you can kind of just start doing this to kind of get some stuff blocked in. And then of course you can go back to dot stroke, square alpha, hit C to sample from pre-existing colors in here. So you can kind of go through and kind of clean this up, and then really quickly just kind of start blocking this in. So that's one alpha thing. Yeah, exactly. And not to say that you can't use Photoshop, for sure. Use Photoshop for all sorts of cool things. But yeah, this is just one option that'll kind of give you maybe a little bit more freedom when it comes to especially X symmetry. There's another way too. So I have a program called Brainstorm, and that just shoots out a bunch of thumbnails. So if you have, or you can just make them in Photoshop if you'd like. If you want to use those, I'm going to go to Texture, Import, and I think I have, let me see, an output. There we go. And I can just grab a bunch of these things, and then I can go to Texture, select that whole sheet, and now that I have a whole sheet of them in here, I'm going to go to Texture, and I'm going to go to Invert. There we go. So now they're basically white shapes on a black background. And if I want to make my document filled with them, I can go to Texture, Crop and Fill. And that's going to make my document the size of the pixel dimensions and also fill it with that texture. Now if I go to Zoom, you can see I have all these shapes. And these shapes are fine. You can go ahead and grab these and shoot them off as alphas as well. If you want to modify them while they're on your document, you do have the option to go into your simple brush here. And we'll just use a simple brush. We'll change it to a dot stroke and maybe a square alpha and a dark color. And you can go through here and you can start painting out areas, or you can change it to a white color. You can start painting in areas. You don't have to, I mean, you can do drag dot, you can do any of this cool stuff. But just a bunch of different ways where you can go in here and start breaking up these shapes if you'd like while it's on your document before you use mRGB Z Grabber to kind of grab individual chunks off of this thing. So you can do that, and again, all that is just going in here to, where are we at? mRGB Z Grabber. And again, if you hold down Shift, that'll make it a square texture, and then it's going to throw it on your texture first. Just go here to make alpha, and now you've got an alpha with that shape here. And then if you want to, this is going to be a gigantic document, so I'm just going to go to Document, turn on W size to fill up the whole document here. We'll do New, and that'll make it so our document isn't gigantic. And then we're back here to our thing here. And you can also use all of them together if you want to just do maybe a drag rect with a gray and just kind of break up, let's see, texture to make alpha, texture off. So you can kind of just drag in these things, drop your RGB intensity down, and we'll go to flat color here. So you can kind of just use this as kind of an alchemy type thing where you can just kind of drag in a bunch of stuff and then change your Z intensity, and you can kind of just get shape ideas from that and kind of break up from that kind of stuff. What else? What else? So we've got all that kind of breakup here. So let's go ahead and I'll just make a quick text. Let me make sure. So we use that. We grab some alphas, all that good stuff. So yeah, let's. I'm gonna shut down ZBrush really quick, and we'll start fresh because I threw a bunch of stuff in there. And we'll just start making her a really quick tech suit here. Load up. There we go. So we do a fresh load up here. Streaming, female, high res, 5. There we go. And again, I'm just going to grab just something for quick reference here. I'm trying to find the best one. I guess hand placement doesn't really matter that much. That's a good enough one. So I want this one here. Shoot that to the top, turn everything else off, and we'll just do an insert plane, and then W, turn on X symmetry, and I'm just going to do a quick size, give us some room here, and we'll pull this out front, turn off perspective. There we go. And now flat color, mRGB, color, fill object, transparency mode, ghost, and then dot stroke, alpha, our mRGB, we'll keep it at 100 for now, turn off Z-add, and also under stroke, I'm going to turn off lazy mouse for now, just toggle L here. There's a bunch of different ways you can do that. We'll talk about that. Let me make something real quick, and then we'll start talking about ways to kind of block it out. You can create it as masks. You can do poly groups and extractions to kind of get thickness. You can use shadow box to break up the shapes. I can't think of an easy way because we're going to be painting it in 3D but in 2D, so you can take something and extract a shape and then just sculpt it down a little bit to get what you want, but it won't be like a one-button solution, at least not that any way I can see off the top of my head. But maybe, I don't know, we'll see. So for this thing here, I'm going to need some resolution, obviously, so we're going to go to geometry, and then turn off smooth modifier, divide it up, and then, yeah, we'll just go in here, and we'll just start making something here. So we need big old shoulders here, so we can start doing that kind of stuff here. And let me go ahead and see, hey, her tech suit's okay. So what I do need from her is big shoulders, and then we need some support for the arm and the elbow so she can bend. And then past the hand, she's going to be holding onto these little controller sticks, and that's going to control these much larger hands that she can use, kind of like Ripley and Aliens. So it'll have these big claw hands here, and then there'll be some thumbs here. We can kind of just start blocking this out here. So that'll be these big hands here, and then she's going to need a pretty big chest harness to kind of keep all of that weight going here. So we can kind of just block this in here. And then up and around, I was kind of thinking about maybe having some sort of like back piece here that would also come back around here and kind of plug in. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Kind of build out her back. And now we can't really tell the front from the back right now. That'll be when we add more information, but for now it's just thumbnailing. And again, you can go in here, any of those thumbnails you wanted to bring that we made, you can do that. I'm going to go to my alpha, maybe I got some patterns or some stencils I can bring in. Let's see. That might just be like hard surface, kind of weird. And it doesn't have to be just, it can be something like this too, where you can kind of go in and we'll make it a drag rect here. And we can change our focal shift down to -100. Because, she isn't necessarily just, what's the word I'm looking for? Like super boxy or anything. She has very organic silhouette shapes, so you can use more organic stuff. In fact, there's even one in here. You can use this thing. Let's go ahead and choose white. And you can use this to kind of, also get rid of some of these shapes here. Kind of punch back through. I'll go to dots here and just change this focus shift back. And you can also change these alphas out if you want more of a square, kind of a square brush look. And I think also under here under mouse average, you can crank that up a little bit to kind of even that stroke out maybe. You can do it in lazy mouse, but I don't want to turn lazy mouse on. If you turn lazy mouse on, you have a bunch of other options here where you can change your lazy step down to make it really smooth. Or if you want to, you can crank it up if you want to do like dots, so you can fill it with like spheres or something like that. But anyway, and then you can change your lazy radius down to 1 as well if you want to kind of get the best of both worlds, like a freehand stroke but very, very close together, that kind of thing. No, you could absolutely do that if you're just doing sorry, the question was, so you can extract the alpha info based off the white and blacks you get to do the height. You can do that if you'd like. You can also convert this to a mask that you can throw, or you can just mask through onto a shadow box, and that'll get you, or you can do alpha to height is another thing you can do if you load up an alpha. Let's just talk about that for a second. You can do anything, any of these alphas here. You can take an alpha, and then under your alpha menu, you can go make 3D. You can do, I'm going to crank up the resolution just a little bit here, crank the depth down just a little bit, and then we can hit make 3D, and then drag that out. Go into edit mode here. Turn off transparency. There we go. So now you can make any alpha into 3D based on, you know, those kind of things. So that's another way you can do it. And you can convert textures to alpha like we just did earlier when you were grabbing that height information. So that's one way. And then you can just go through here, make it a Dynamesh or whatever, and just start sculpting back or down whatever you want to kind of change this thing into. So for sure, there's a bunch of different ways here. Let's see. Here, turned on. Oh, there's transparency. So we'll go back in here, and then dot stroke, brush alpha here. Cool. And then let's see. So again, we need some sort of thing through here, and then back to here. And then I'm going to sample out here, and we can kind of start carving this in. Fill these little pieces here. And if we want it to have kind of like go back around the back of her head, I can start indicating, like I can just sample like a lighter gray, and we can go, you know what? We can start filling in some of these areas here with some more information here. So we'll go here, and then the chest harness, and then elbow here, elbow supports. And then I'm not sure if I want to go aggressive with those shapes. So a lot of these things end up being pretty aggressive, like little spiny things. I'm not sure if that's what I want, but we can keep them in there and kind of see. I kind of like how this shape kind of follows the inside of her thigh here, so I'm going to kind of keep that. And then again, we're going to go down here, and we're going to go to that platform where we're going to have big old knees, and that's going to go down to a big platform where it's going to have like big mech feet. And I'm actually might have to spread, you know, move her legs out a little bit so we can get more toe stuff for these big mech feet that she's going to have stomping around. But that'll work. And this kind of thing, we can kind of follow this up like this maybe. Okay. Now, if I'm running out of, you know, I'm kind of getting to the bottom, I'm like, well, I don't want to make the feet any bigger because I don't have enough room. That's not a big deal. You can take this, and we can go ahead and duplicate this plane off. I'm going to go in, I'm in solo mode right now. So I'm going to go drop down to subdivision level 1, and I'm going to delete higher, and I'm going to go ahead and make a little bit more room. So I'm going to go stretch that down just a bit, give some more room. And if you want to make it a little bit wider for the hand, just make it a little bit wider. I want to keep these squares nice and even, so I'm going to go over here to Z-remesher, same, adapt the size down to 0, and then we'll just Z-remesh this whole thing. And it's like, oh, we lost our image. That's okay, we can get it back. So if I have this plane showing, our new one, and then our old plane showing, what we can basically do is select this plane here, and we can do just a project. So I'm going to go down here to project all, and first I need to subdivide it up. So we're going to turn off smooth, give it the same number of subdivisions we were working at here, and then we can just do project all, and then one or more of the visible subtools contains polypaint data. Yes, we want to transfer it. And now we've got our poly paint here with tons more room. This one here we don't really need anymore. Just go ahead and delete it. And now we've got a nice new sheet of paper with all that information on it. And let's go ahead and go back to this one here. Transparent, ghost. And let's go ahead and do a quick color fill object. There we go. Transparent, ghosts, and we'll do flat color. And it always seems, oh yeah, I'm in solo mode. That's where. There we go. And we're kind of back where we started here. So now I've got a little bit more leeway if I want to kind of continue out and down, and it won't kind of cramp my style too much in here. So let's say that's kind of the shape I'm looking for. We can maybe drop some wires in here, if that's the kind of look we want, and maybe like a little harness contraption in here. Just to kind of go out and maybe down and around. This kind of thing. Let's see. And then the knees here. Let's see. This can come down. You can also start poking in negative shapes too as well. If you want it to kind of lighten up a little bit and be like, you know what? This can kind of be kind of see-through, and it's just going to be like an exoskeleton here. And now that we have that information, we can go ahead and start putting in a little bit more 3D stuff. So kind of pulling out some shapes here. So if we sample this by hitting C, you're going to see it's a pretty dark gray. We can go all the way to black or close to it, and we can switch over to maybe a round alpha, and we can start maybe cutting in or just drawing in, you know, where the shoulder pads are going to go here, and then maybe the chest plate will kind of go through here, and then the back will go back around. And then maybe there'll be a light in here, so I can go into C, and I can kind of punch in maybe like a little LED light in here. You can even make it kind of glow a little bit if you want to. And then we'll go back down to black. So, let's see, mRGB. Let's see, flat color. Give us back our flat color here. Occasionally it wants to default to matte cap red for some reason. Start sculpting in here, and you can also just start doing like a light gray. Let me make sure my stroke is down at, let's go ahead and turn that off. Lazy radius off, and then you can start pulling out like maybe front chest panels. I'm going to go back to my square alpha here, and then we can just start saying, okay, this thing kind of comes in front here and kind of maybe wraps around the side, and then this arm here maybe is armor plated, and this little front hand thing here can kind of pop out. And so you can kind of start pulling out shapes here. Maybe this panel up here kind of pops out here. And then you can go back to your black. And let's see, white. And then black mRGB. Wonder why it's doing that. That's weird. It's like if I Alt click over here, if I'm in white, it'll inherit it. But I think it's something to do with the flat color material. Sometimes the flat color can act a little bit weird. As long as I don't hit Alt, it'll keep it that way. So now we can kind of just dial in this thing here, and then start drawing in this little plate here. And then some knees. We got to put in some knees that can bend, so we'll kind of draw that in, RGB. And you can also change your Z intensity down, or your RGB intensity, I'm sorry, just to kind of break that up a bit here. And then this will kind of go over, and then this will be like maybe a chest thing. And then everything in the back, we can kind of push back with black. And then all these back pieces here can maybe be... And again, I'm going super duper fast. What time did I start? We talked about mouse and stuff, so, you know, take your time and make something nice. I tend to go overly fast when I'm on here just because I want to get the technique stuff, and then concepting stuff is more when I put on music or a movie or something. And then I'll just kind of go back and forth with my shapes and kind of figure those things out a little bit better. Put in some toes here, and again, just kind of putting in some articulation, points of articulation here, and we can sample this thing. Be like, we'll bulk that up quite a bit. We can spin this thing off and bulk that up quite a bit. And we can kind of round these shapes out as well. Here. It's getting there. Let's see. Let's go to our super dark black here. And now we can kind of... It's doing that weird thing again. Here. Start painting that in. Yeah, it's doing something weird with the material when I go to black. I'm not quite sure what that is. I'll have to look that up and see what's going on there. Let's do... I'm going to go to my light menu, and I'm going to crank up my intensity. Is that going to do anything? No. Let's see what material that is. Yeah, it's defaulting to matte cap red wax. So what I'm going to do is let's force it. I'm going to go to my material options here, and let's see if I can force matte cap red wax into something that is like super bright. There we go. Intensity B. Make it more monochromatic, maybe. There we go. I will force you into a flat color. So, okay, try that. And now we can move around and we can sample different stuff. So when in doubt, figure it out. So we got this here, and then this will kind of scoot around here, and then that'll go to like a little front plate here. There we go, much better. I can actually move around here. Trying to think of what else I can put on this thing. Might be cool. And I got my square alpha here. Pop this thing out, and you can also try maybe sample in here. That can be backpack shapes too. So yeah, if this is going to be where her chest kind of sits, we can go ahead and darken that up a little bit. And those lights are kind of bugging me. I'm going to turn those off temporarily. I might put them back. But for now, we can kind of darken this up. And then all of these shapes here are kind of being recessed. And we'll give a little bit more meat to this hand here. There we go. Yes, that is my... She's going to go outside to go potty. Mom's taking her out. But yeah, I was doing some... I'm revamping my CGMA stuff, and I had to take her collar off because I came home early, get some recording done. I start recording, and then in the background all I hear is, you know, she gets bored, she wants to go shake, or she wants to, you know, scratch her neck, and all you hear is a jingle jangle in the background. Which isn't a huge deal, but a little bit distracting. There we go. Some sort of exosuit armor here. And again, you can just go in here. Oh, also, we have some military alphas. Let me go grab some of those. I have some really old... there's a posterized material in there. Oh, wait. I think I saved that. It's like, I could have used one of those. So alpha, military, and like these kind of shapes in here. Let's go ahead and double click those, and now we can just kind of do that, or let's do a drag rect here, change our focal shift to -100, kind of drag these out, kind of start stamping in, and you can also, remember, change your RGB intensity as well, if you just want to kind of do a slight little hint, or maybe just start breaking up these shapes a little bit. Let's see what else we got in here. See if there's anything interesting that kind of pops out to you. And we'll get a round alpha and do another pass here with a dark color. And we can start playing with maybe how some of this stuff is broken up. And I feel like this isn't going to be enough, so I'm going to go ahead and fill this out. make it a little bit more bulky. We can connect these things back down through. And then we can put a little shadow on the bottom here. And if you want to, you can just go into solo mode, and now you can kind of, paint without her sitting in there. Now that you've got it kind of blocked out enough, you don't need to constantly reference back to her. And then she is going to need some articulation through her shoulder here, so we'll kind of go in here and we'll bulk out her shoulder a little bit too. So we'll pop this up. In fact, let's switch back to square alpha here. And really, like what we were doing on my channel a while back, well, maybe it's just last time. Time flies. But we were doing a lot of this kind of block out stuff. I did do it with like I kind of did a smirky. What did I do here? We did and we started blocking him out too. Give me a second here. Streaming, smirky. So we started blocking him out, and he was from this thing that we did, and we used a bunch of different techniques to kind of do this guy as well. But same kind of idea, just kind of blocking out this stuff and then going in there and Shift Z, start blocking his shapes out like so. So you can kind of start blocking him in and getting him figured out. So we'll be doing that too. So go back here, go back to my matte cap red wax that I've modified the heck out of. And we can start dialing in a little bit lighter and through here, these panels. Pop these forward a little bit. And then you can go through here, change your alpha out, and then you can do a little bit more precise panel cuts. And we need probably a little bit more separation between her collarbone and her shoulder here. So I can go ahead and just start putting in maybe some rubber through here, or we can just fill it in with black completely if we want to just kind of knock these completely back, put in a big dead space in between there. And then this will rotate up, and then her elbow's got plenty of room to wiggle, and then this thing kind of doesn't have much of a wrist, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pop in a little bit of a wrist through here. And she doesn't need all these wires either. That was just kind of having a little bit of fun with the wires there. So, all right, a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and just kind of pop her chest off and her shoulders off and stuff and start blocking that in. So here I'm going to give a little bit more room to the hand so we can have a little bit more space for the wrist here. So we can do like hand, back plate, and then maybe a wrist separation, and then thumb. Let's go ahead and redraw these fingers real quick. And we don't have to have everything figured out, obviously. A lot of that can be done in 3D. In fact, you can do it all in 3D. We've done that a bunch of times too. But this is just another option just to kind of break you out of, I tend to get kind of caught up in how I always do things in 3D, so everything starts looking the same. These are just kind of some techniques to kind of force me to kind of try some new stuff or different ways to get ideas in. Now, if I want to, I can also go in here with my move brush and kind of use that, because it is just geometry. You probably don't want to do it too much, just because you can go, I mean, you can go in there and like relax geometry, but it'll kind of make your poly paint follow through with it. But you can use this as kind of like a liquefy if you want. Because again, it's just geometry. You're just on a plane here. So you can kind of go through here and make some quick adjustments like so. Cool. Yeah, exactly. And there's also, I always forget to mention this, if you go to Z plugin, there's a button up here for you guys that's like, whoops, quick draw or something like that. And I accidentally hit undo way back. But for me, I think it's underneath quick sketch. I always forget. You can hit quick sketch and it'll fill your screen with a plane and set you up with RGB and the right material fills and stuff like that. I kept hitting it accidentally, so I took it down, but that's where you can find that, and you can use that as well if you just want to jump into ZBrush and just start drawing. And it is really good for like symmetrical drawing. Can't beat it. I've tried other stuff, and this is the most straightforward, and it, you know, as far as like radial drawing and stuff too, it's really, really good. Something like this, and then something like... Now this mech suit doesn't look terribly feminine. We can make it more feminine in 3D, or we can keep it more masculine. Kind of looks like a gorilla looking at it like this. But of course we can make those decisions in 3D. We don't have to do everything in 2D, like I said. This is just kind of exploring some shapes. And we don't even have to keep any of this if we don't want to. It's just kind of looking for interesting stuff to kind of pull from. Like I said, and if you want to, you can pop in some LED lights here. And you can put in decals. If you have some text you can put on here, you can just do like an overlay. Oh, another thing you can do, totally forgot about this. So let's grab, you know what, let's just do a quick alpha here. So we have an alpha here, and we have it at white. So if we do this right now with our RGB up at 100, and we're doing a drag rect, it will just completely, we'll do focus shift -100. It'll just completely obliterate this thing. If you go down here, oops, get rid of our material, go into your brush settings here, go to your alpha and texture, you're going to see there's a poly paint mode. If I move this thing over, it's going to say 1 is standard, 2 is colorized, 3 is multiply, 4 is light, and 5 is darken. So you can go in here with all sorts of different alphas or even textures. If you want to paint with a texture, let's just grab a texture here. And yeah, we'll just use this texture. So if we drag this texture out, it'll just drag out as a texture and just kind of obliterate this thing. But if, let's say I want to change this to maybe, what's 3? I'm gonna move this thing out of the way. Multiply. So now it's just going to go in the dark areas. So you can kind of use poly paint modes to kind of go through here and do a little bit of kind of alchemy style breakup, or drag in alphas. You can do lighten. So now it's only going to take the white values and overlay them. And of course you can always just drop down your RGB intensity as well. And you can kind of mix and match with these different poly paint modes within ZBrush. So FYI, because I forget about that too. And you can paint with textures too. You can just grab a texture, make it into a dot stroke, and now you're painting with that texture. Or you can go to drag dot, or you can go to drag rect, or you can go to spray out that texture. Glad I remember that. All useful stuff. So now I'm going to go in here. I think we're okay. Let's see. And of course, if we go back into transparency mode, you're going to see that's where our lady's going to sit. So good enough. So let's go ahead and say we want to start making this thing. I'm going to shoot it to the top here. How are we doing on time? Okay. So, the best way I want to tackle this thing. My gut tells me There's a bunch of different ways we can do this. The easiest way off the top of my head is just to use Dynamesh. So if we go to, you can go to Brush, Insert, BI, and then just drag out a sphere and Dynamesh that. I'm going to go into my custom menu here, and we'll just drag out oh, interesting. So we can drag this out here. It's got multiple subdivision levels. I can go ahead and kill those. That's fine. So we can drag this thing out here, and now we can kind of position this over her, and we can kind of use our drawing to kind of sit there, and we can use move to kind of move this into position here. And let's turn off ghost maybe. So I want transparency on, but I also want to see the image. So I think if I move that image forward in front, oh, I still got it on the same poly group, that's why, or the same subtool. Let's go ahead and just do a split mask points here. There we go. And now I can move this thing out. Perfect. So now we've got the chest on here. Now, you can also throw this thing in the spotlight. It might actually be easier at this point. So I'm going to go to Preferences, Edit, turn off Line Cursor to Surface. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. We'll switch this back over to our flat color maybe. And let's throw this into Spotlight. So what I need to do is grab a texture off of this thing. We can use mRGB Z Grabber. That'll probably be the easiest thing. I'm temporarily going to go to my document, and I'm just going to hit double. And that's going to make my document really big temporarily. So we're going to zoom out, hit Control N, and then as soon as I drag this thing out, we can turn off, go into edit mode, turn off transparent. And so now we just have, we're going to grab more pixels here. So I'm going to go out of edit mode here, and we're going to go into the mRGB Z Grabber, and I'm just going to grab a bunch of these pixels here. I can having a hard time seeing white on white. Let's see. There we go. So there's the texture I grabbed. I can go to Texture, Export, and we can save this under Streaming, ZBrush Female, High Res, and we'll call this Mech-Suit. So now I'm going to go to Document, go back down to half, Control N, drag this out, and we don't really need this anymore because what I'm going to do is go to Texture, and we exported it just so I have it, but I also still have it when I did the mRGB Z Grabber, so I'm going to select it, throw it into my Spotlight here. We don't need this robot anymore, so I can delete that. And now I can turn down this resolution here. Z, there we go. And now we've got our chest plate here. Let's go to Matte Cap, Gray. And now we can kind of position her where she's supposed to go and about the size she's supposed to be. If we want to keep this, we can use the movie timeline, or we can just quickly go into Document here and do just throw it into a custom one. And so we've got this here, and if I alt tap this chest piece here, we can go into W and just kind of move this stuff around. So once we get the shape kind of blocked in, let's go ahead and do a quick clip circle. And so if this back piece goes up, I'm gonna hit Shift Z to get out of there, and we can kind of just move this thing up and back and around. Let's make sure Dynamesh is turned on. And smooth stronger. There we go. So now I can hit Custom 1 to go back to my view. And we can go ahead and make sure this is lined up here. It goes way up there. And of course, you know, part of this is finding out what works in 3D, not necessarily what worked in 2D. So of course there's going to be lots of surprises probably. Let's turn that focus shift back to 0. If you don't want to mess up your standard brush, by the way, you can just take your standard brush and go to Brush Clone right here, and that'll spit off a copy, and then you can do all the changes you want to it. You don't have to worry about it kind of doing something silly. You're going to see as I'm sculpting through Spotlight, it's pushing the geometry back. So if I go into clay brush here and start clay brushing through, you're going to see it's going to kind of use Spotlight as an alpha. That's a feature. If you don't want it to do that, you can go over here to brush, and we talked about this last time too. It took us a little second to get to this. There's a spotlight projection button. If you turn that off, that'll turn off that functionality, and it'll also allow you to take this out from over and under spotlight and just kind of move to the side here, and you can sculpt out here. So you can kind of just go through here and start blocking this stuff out. So we got clay brush here, and we can start brushing this in. And looking at it now, you know, those could be bars, those could be lights. So I'm just going to kind of smooth this thing out. And then we got Z intensity up. And our lazy radius is down. So we can kind of go through here. And we've got our chest kind of blocked out here. And we'll hit our... There we go. Another thing you can do while you're in here is you can turn on RGB for your brush, and you can go ahead and just paint through. Oh, of course you have to have spotlight projection on. And now you can just paint your poly paint through onto the object. And then if it's getting a little bit dark in here, you can just go to RGB and then do a color fill, knock that down just a bit, RGB density of like 26 or something. And you can kind of just brush that detail back on here, and at least you'll know where your detail is. But she's pretty basic right now. So right now what we can also do, if we go back to our polyplane here, let's see if there's anything interesting we can take off of this guy here that would work as just like an extraction or something. God, not really, because this is all 3/4 stuff. The chest piece is easy enough. Maybe this piece here. Let's just do it. So we've got this thing here. I'm going to duplicate it off temporarily, and we're just going to mask out. Also, I'm going to knock this poly paint back just a bit. So again, color, fill object, and let's do mRGB. So just going to kind of knock that back a little bit. So now we can see where that mask is going to go. So we can like hold down Control, and we can mask this shape right here, like so. And then we can hit Control W, isolate this. We can go delete hidden, and now we're just kind of left with that shape. And again, it's kind of a 3/4 shape, so it's not that useful, but we can kind of play with it a little bit. At this point, you can do an extraction. I'm just going to go here to geometry and do a quick Z-remesher. Let's go ahead and do a mask border, invert that mask, and then I'm just going to do a quick polish by deformations, polish by features, and then we'll do a Z-remesher, curve strength, or I'm sorry, adapt the size down to 0. We'll do half, and I'm just going to simplify this geometry. And while I'm doing this, if you want to, use your Move Acu to kind of pull these things out to corners, and then Z-remesh will keep those nice and sharp for you, if that's what you want. And also, since this is probably going to be symmetrical on both sides, what I can do is go out of X symmetry, delete that temporarily, go to turn your floor on. We can move this right in the middle, and we can just really quickly block out maybe a symmetrical thing here. Let's see how this holds up. So I'm going to go X symmetry here. We're going to use our move brush, kind of move this into the shape we want, and then again Z-remesh half. And if we want to, we can weld these points here. Actually, let's go into our weld options, geometry, modify topology, and there's weld in there. There's a weld distance. I'm just going to do weld points there. Do a quick mirror and weld. There we go. So we got the basic shape here. Even better. And you can just go in here and clean it up a little bit if you want. Might have been more trouble than it's worth, but now if you want to wrap this into a specific shape, what you can do is you can go to Insert, Cylinder, and let's just look at these two shapes here. And again, this isn't necessarily something I would do, but while we're here, let's give it a shot. So I'm going to take my size down here, and we're going to put that cylinder back behind, like so. Let's go ahead and scale it up just a bit here. And I'm going to go into our crease tolerance under your geometry crease menu, and we can just kind of, where's our floor here? Looks like I messed this thing up. X, W. There we go. Sorry, this should have been centered. I don't know how I got off center. But anyways, we can Alt tap this thing here. Then we can go to BM. What am I looking for here? Matchmaker brush. BMM. Let's click and drag that, and that'll kind of wrap it to that surface. If I want to make that more extreme, I can pull these edges in and kind of get that curvature more extreme. It's just camera based, so you can just, oops, BMM, and just do a quick matchmaker brush, so now it's even more curved here. This we don't need anymore. Just hit delete, and we'll go back here. And now I can just do a Q mesh polygroup all, and that'll give us that shape. Let's go ahead and flip our normals here. And now we can just do our crease tolerance again, turn on dynamic, and now we've got kind of a shape here. So if I turn back on my chess piece and my girl and my drawing and go back to custom 1 here, you can take this middle piece here, turn off X, use move to move it into place. Now you can kind of rotate this thing around, rotate it back maybe, put it up in here, and now you've got that basic shape. You can go in here with move and kind of got that blocked in. Any questions so far? Oh wow, there's a bunch of stuff. Yes, yes, yes. Sure. Yeah, you gotta have LEDs. Let's see. Got our evangelist here. Yeah, and I always try to stay away from the evangelical arguments between what software is best for extruding faces, because typically when you're modeling, that's what you're doing. Don't get me wrong, I use them all, but they're all basically the same thing. I've extruded faces in all of them, and I can safely say they all extrude faces very well at this point. It's 2017. There's not a whole lot of difference. So we've got this here, and let's see. We got our chest here, and I'm also going to take this thing down, and we'll go ahead and turn the opacity down. You can also try maybe going into your intensity and just dropping that intensity down so we can kind of see a little bit more behind, kind of gray it out just a little bit here. There we go. And oh, we need to mirror and weld this piece here, so I'll tap that one, then we'll just do a quick mirror and weld. And let's see, another thing we can do, and this is what we did for our robot guy, and this is probably the most straightforward thing. I'm going to go ahead and delete this chest out of here, because that was one way. And I always get caught up in that. As I get more stuff going, what I'm probably going to end up doing is just doing it one way, but I like to do it a bunch of different ways because it gives me stuff to talk about. But if I was to remake this thing right now, what I would do is just do a quick insert Z-sphere, hit X to go across X symmetry. We'll move this up into place. We'll scale it down, and this is how I did my robot guy. So we've got Z-spheres in here, and then I'm going to go into draw mode here. Let's turn off our floor. We can move this up, and I can scale this out. We can scale this out, and then we can tap here, and maybe put in some shoulders here, and then tap here, and drag out some biceps here. And we can move all of this stuff around eventually, but at least we'll get it blocked in here. And there's our hand, and then we'll go, there's our wrist. We'll put in another Z-sphere here. And while I'm kind of just dropping this stuff in, it's probably not going to look great when I scoot around, but we can just fix it in 3D. So we're just kind of putting things into place here with our move and then hitting Q. You can hold down Shift to kind of snap these things to the same size here. There we go. So we got the upper body kind of blocked in here. Good enough. I'm going to hit Shift Z, and now I can go to the side and be like, oh boy, that looks terrible. So I'm going to bring her in for my elbow reference here, and we're just going to drop these elbows back, these wrists back, and this will be, I can also go into rotate, and we can rotate down the bone if we want to kind of move and rotate a bunch of things at once here. And now we can start kind of dialing in where these things want to be. So the elbow, I do want to kind of match her so she can move her shoulders and elbows and still be somewhat congruent with the machine. But then the wrist, this little thing is going to be controlling the wrist. So now we can go off the deep end here. And in fact, we can actually just scale this thing all up and down. We'll rotate down the chain here, and we'll go ahead and move these things around here. Cool, cool. We got a thumb here. All right, and let's rotate that around just a bit. And maybe down a little bit. Something like that. Okay, a wire with a connector on each end like a USB cord. If you go way back to SIGGRAPH 2013, I demoed that at the Pixelogic booth. But let's do that really quick. I'll take a break from that. That's a good one. So, so this would be, you know what? Let's just do a USB cord. Hold on. Images. Perfect. So a USB cord is going to be, start with the cube 3D here, and we're going to go to initialize, make it a polymesh 3D. We'll do a quick initialize cube, and then we'll go in here with our Z modeler brush, QMesh polygroup all. We will hold down Shift to push these back, and then in here I'm going to alt mark these. We're going to go to inset polygroup all region. We can kind of push this in here. We can go to QMesh polygroup all. We'll push this back. And that'll be the start of it. Now for this thing here, I can do QMesh polygroup all, hold down Control, and then I'll just pull out some more thickness here. For this one, I'm going to do QMesh polygroup island, and that'll kind of pull this out here. And then we'll do another one here, and then we'll just mask this off, and then we should have X symmetry turned on. Actually, we can kind of pull this down. We can mask this out. We can scale this up. We can push this forward. And there is our USB connector, right? So on the back of this thing, we're going to go to cylinder 12. And I guess that's about right. Goes back about here somewhere. We can go to insert multiple edge loops here. We can go dial that in. Let's do it, make it so the colors are even here. And then we'll just go to QMesh polygroup all. Actually, you know what? I'm going to split this thing off. I'm going to split mask points, and then we'll do a QMesh polygroup all. There we go. So there's our USB connector here. And this stuff, what we would do, if I tap this one here, we can go to geometry, dynamic subdiv, turn on dynamic. I don't want to do a smooth subdiv. I want to do a Q grid. So if we go here, that'll kind of put in the edge loops for me to kind of get the thing I'm going for. We can also do coverage. We can kind of do a little bit of a bevel in there. But that's fine. Now again, this is just a preview, so we can hit Shift D. It's non-destructive, so pretty simple to do. This one back here, however, if we turn on dynamic, we are going to want to keep it dynamic, but I am going to turn on down the crease tolerance here. And let's go ahead and turn up our smooth subdivisions here. Okay, so there's one end of the USB cord. For the other end, let's go ahead and I'm going to take this one here. Let's just duplicate this subtool off. We'll go into solo mode, and then we'll do Shift D, and I'm just going to get rid of all this junk. Delete hidden. I'm just going to do a Q mesh, polygroup all, pull this through. We'll go ahead and flip. Now this one's going to be a little more square, like so. And now it's going to be square, and then it's also going to be, let's just do a quick slide, edge loop complete. Then we'll mask this, invert that mask, pull this in. And again, just like the other one, we're going to alt tag this one. We'll do inset. Polygroup all region is fine. Go ahead and pull this in. And if this gives you any trouble, just mask these ends out. And now we can just kind of flatten those out. We can also use clip to flatten, but that's good enough. Q mesh, polygroup all. And we'll go ahead and pull this in. Looks good. Looks good. Now I'm going to go Alt-EM, grab a simple cube, toss that on there. We'll go ahead and do a split mask points. And we're just going to show these two here. And this thing, let's do a quick mirror and weld. And then we'll do insert. We'll do insert multiple edge loop here. But we're just going to put in a single edge loop just to make sure it's right down the middle. And now we can kind of scale this right from the middle here, like so. Because it looks like this little back connector here, I'm just kind of eyeballing some really basic reference here. Good enough. And then this thing can come back this away. Does that thing come out far enough? Yeah, it kind of goes back. And then this thing here kind of does one of these bad boys. We're going to mask this. Now if you want to put a transposed line right in the middle of there, just click, we'll go out of X mode, click that little white dot, and anything that's unmasked, even if it was a ring in here, it would snap you right to the center of that thing. And now you can just kind of scale that down. And then just like the other one, let's go ahead and steal this piece right here. Easiest way to steal it, grab this end, brush, create insert mesh, new, and we'll go here, and we'll just go, done, split mask points. So now we have a bunch of USB stuff. So let's go ahead and make a USB cord. So if I want to, I'm going to shoot this to the top, I'm going to shoot this to the top, I'm going to shoot this to the top, and I'm going to merge these down. And I'm going to do a quick, let's see where our floor is here. Yeah, we'll flip this, we'll mirror this in the Y. There we go. And I'm also going to make these about the same length here. So now we've got both of those. Let's go ahead and make a cord in between these things. So I'm going to go ahead and merge all of these together. And let's go ahead and bridge these two. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these here, invert that, delete hidden. And I'm just going to do a quick hover over an edge, bridge two holes. We'll do a spline. So we'll go here to here. Perfect. And so we've got that. Now we need 3 separate polygroups here. So I'm going to grab these ones here, Control W. I'm going to grab these ones here. Let's just make this a little cleaner. Here, 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 here. Invert that, Control Shift A. Yeah, let's get rid of this. All right, all one polygroup. So we've got this thing, and now this needs to be one polygroup here. So now with all of that, oh, I think I scaled this one down. That's okay. No one's going to notice. So we got these 3 polygroups here. I'm going to capture this. I'm going to go to B, create insert mesh, new. And of course, that's just going to create an insert mesh. But instead, what I want to do is go over here to our brush settings and our stroke settings here. And we're going to do turn on curve mode. So now we've got a wire with 2 different ends. We're going to obviously want to go down to brush and turn on our modifiers here. And let's go ahead and say we want to weld those points, turn on stress, turn up our curve res here. And we can also go in here to max bend angle if we want to not be able to bend these things too much. We can kind of just dictate that a little bit. So here's our USB cord. You can continue to make this thing longer, or you can drag out a USB cord. You can go over here to, you can tap off to kind of set it in there, or you can drag another one here. You can also turn on turn off bend and snap. You can also do as line if you want to do a straight cord here. You can do a snapshot. You're going to see there's a snapshot button, which is 5, and then you can go in here and move. So you can hit 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. You can turn back on bend and snap if you want to. And then you can make a shape. You can hit 5, 5, 5, 5, that kind of thing. So yeah, you can try doing that in Max, Maya, any other program do that kind of functionality in 2 minutes? Probably not. But anyway, and also another cool thing about that is you can also change this with any other curve brush. You can go to brush, curve, or brush insert, and say, you know what, I actually want this curve to be a bike chain. Now we have a bike chain. Or, you know, everybody gets so caught up in like, I made a hose maker. You can make all sorts of hoses that you want. I think I've got a bunch of hoses in here. Let's go to the curve brush here. Do we want like hose 1? Or do we want like hose 2? Or do we want a dragon spine? I wanted a dragon spine. I forgot. I actually just didn't even want to hose at all. Cool, cool, cool. No, there's good. I mean, and here's the thing. With those techniques, I already have, so I made a insert mesh brush. I can now take that to my exoskeleton here. And then we can alt tap on here. Whoops. And let's go back to our lady here. And this is the kind of thing where we can just kind of start dropping in all that cool functionality we just made. Kind of drag these things in here. And actually I'm going to turn off snap so we can just kind of bend this thing around. And also I did that just because it's kind of cool to look at when you're making these brushes. But I would suggest keeping your max bend angle at like 49 is probably a good one. Just give you a little bit more leeway. Another thing I like to do when I'm doing this kind of type of thing is let's go ahead and do hide point, delete hidden. Oops, I forgot to tack the curve off. If you ever forget to get rid of the curve, just go to curves here and just hit delete. Another thing you can do is set up like a proxy mesh in here. If you're having a hard time kind of dragging those things around, one thing you can do is just go into here and just put like a cube in here. And you can give it a surface to kind of ride on. And you can use this to do either a frame mesh, or you can just kind of give it, like I said, a, let's go ahead and split mask points here. And let's see, project blur, dynamesh here. I did this on the Commander where he's got that big ammo belt that had to go in a very specific direction. It was just easier to kind of just carve in a direction or a platform for it to kind of sit on, and then I could go in here with my brush and just kind of just drag it right along, and it just follows that surface very nicely. So use that to your advantage if you'd like. From game character art to cinematic character artist, I don't know, I've never done it. I don't think so. I think there's some stuff when it gets, I mean, as far as like source models, not really, because if you look at any game source models made in the past 10 years, we're, you know, tens and 20s of millions of polygons, so it's not like game source art is super low poly anymore. It's just how we translate that source art into game and have it run real time. You have to play with a lot of tricks, and we've talked about this stuff too, where you just have tons and tons of real-time tricks to make things run, and UVs and reuse and layers and masks. Whereas in cinematics and stuff, you can kind of, I mean, again, I don't do cinematic stuff, but it's very interesting. I would say I wouldn't mind doing some of that because and I know enough about it, how you would handle, you know, UDIMs differently than you would possibly UV sets. There's just a lot of tricks you have to do in game. So there's probably some stuff you would need to learn. There's definitely some stuff you need to learn. But as far as the source assets, probably not. When it comes to cloth, you wouldn't do as much baking. You wouldn't do as much of the fake tricks that we have to do for performance reasons. So you'd probably have to learn more just higher fidelity, higher quality stuff, and not have that be at the expense of, well, you can only have 2 textures or 2 material draw calls on this whatever, and it's only going to get a 2048, so make sure you reuse a lot of stuff. And it's again that puzzle piece of using a bunch of low res stuff to come together, especially on the environment side, and make it look really full of fidelity, but really it's just a bunch of tricks just to get it to run real time. Fiber mesh for keyshot. I haven't done a lot of that. We talked a little bit about hair. Go back into my on the Pixelogic YouTube channel. Let me see if I can just pull that up real quick. Now that usually I have it on a smaller monitor down here, but now that I have this, I can go straight to that. There we go. Give that a whirl, and if you go back, we talk a bit about hair. I don't go into necessarily fiber mesh and rendering in Keyshot, but I can try it real quick. That actually, I'm interested. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go grab here, and I'm just gonna put her in solo mode so it goes a little bit faster here. Let's do a test. We're going to go into fiber mesh, and we're going to go into preview here. Perfect. Let's go into modifiers here, drop our max fibers down. We'll do length quite a bit less here. I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and hit accept. And then now we've got her and this beard here. So let's go ahead and do B, brush, groom. Let's see, groom hair long maybe. Nope. To her hair. There we go. Just kind of comb this down just a bit. Yeah, nice. And I probably should have done this in a couple different poly groups here, but it's just for a test here. Dynamic. I like it. So let's see. I'm going to go to, now I am going to remember to switch back and forth between the programs here. I promise. I don't promise. I might mess it up, but we'll give it a shot. So I'm going to throw that into Keyshot real quick. And we'll go to loading Keyshot up now. There it is. So it's throwing it in there. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this on this window. I thought I already had a Keyshot window. I'm going to make one real quick. There we go. You guys can see that. Let me move this down underneath. And all right. So we've got fiber mesh. If we double click this, let's see what properties it has. Specular, let's go ahead and crank that specular up. Let's make it a little bit shinier here. And again, I've never really messed with hair that much, but it's got an interesting material on there. It's got an advanced material. If we want to, let's go ahead and throw her in the Old West, aka Iceland, or maybe Urban 4K. Actually, ZBrush might have some outdoors. Let's go put her on the Pixelogic roof here. And we can use control and kind of spin this around. And let's go ahead and get rid of that environment. Turn on color here. And one thing we can do, if you got Pro, edit, add geometry. We'll throw in a quick plane here. And we'll do move part. I'll rotate this around here. And then we'll go into an area light. And we'll go ahead and say, you do not be visible to camera. And now we can go to our environment and we can crank that environment contrast down. Interesting. So one thing we can do, I'm going to hop, and don't worry, I'm coming back, ZBrush. There we go. I'm going to hop back into here. I'm going to try a couple different settings here. So underneath here, I think I still have access. And again, I'm not a fiber mesh expert. I just play one on TV. So I'm going to go to BPR settings. I wonder if I can crank up our subdivisions and have that export curves. Preview settings. I wonder if this will allow us to shoot that back over. So I'm going to go back and shoot that back over. Sending a subdivided fiber mesh to an external render will result in 16 million vertices. That's fine. I think Keyshot can handle that. So also just give our fiber mesh a little bit more resolution. Perfect isometric view in ZBrush. Yeah, I think so. Once I hop back in there, wow, I didn't think it was going to be this many fibers. I might have to punt on this. Let's see, I'm going to throw... Still waiting on this to update. There we go. Is that any smoother? That's a little bit better. Anyways, there's fibers in Keyshot. It's handling this like a champ. There's 34 million triangles in Keyshot on my laptop, which is not the greatest. I'm in the market for a new computer, but I'm also going to need Ryzen to come out on a laptop. So I don't know. We'll see what the future holds, because I need to be mobile. I need everything packed into a machine I can take around. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm doing in here. We can try and play with this diffuse a little bit. I can uncheck that diffuse, and that'll give us a little bit more. Let's see, diffuse here. Yeah, I'd have to play with this and maybe change this thing to like maybe an anisotropic, maybe. Ooh, here we go. Now we're cooking with Crisco. Yeah, I don't know. This is something I'd have to play with, but it's doable. Seems to be working to me. So that's going to kill that. Back into ZBrush here. I guess we can get rid of that. Not that it's a bad look or anything, but how are we doing on time? I got 40 minutes. Oh yeah, we're gonna, okay, before I get to the Keyshot versus Painter, I use them both, but for much different reasons. So here we go. So we got this lady here. So are you talking, so we have orthographic views. So if you turn off perspective, you can hold down shift and that'll just kind of snap you to the top, down, left, and right views. I assume that's what you mean. So that's how you do that, is just turn off perspective and then now you're set up to be perfectly orthographic. You could also have perspective turned on, I guess, if you wanted to, and then go in here and change your angle of view down to like really low. Here's really high. Here's really low. I think the default is like 50 or something. But yeah, perspective off and then holding down shift. Any special reason using Keyshot or Substance Painter? So Keyshot I use when I'm doing stuff like, and I have a breakdown here. So if you go to, for instance, so here's my playlist of all my YouTube crap. If you go to the intro to ZBrush part 3, and I'll save this out. You know what? I don't have it. I must have something on here. My intro to ZBrush part 3 on my Gumroad has a walkthrough of that. But I can kind of walk you guys through that too if you're interested. We can do a quick render and put together. If you want to see Painter, this one is kind of a walkthrough I did with my Commander. That was through Painter, and basically it was all set up in ZBrush. Use a little bit of Marvelous Designer, then resurface that in ZBrush, which I do all the time. I just dropped a Gumroad YouTube thing on that. So I can export all this stuff out of ZBrush using their FBX exporter, and if you want to see that process, you can try this one. Oops. Sorry, I'm talking in my own ear. I hate that. And the sound of my own voice. Ugh. So there's a whole process going. I do for in 1 hour. I make this whole thing. This whole rifle in ZBrush, and then I go through and export it. Now this one isn't exported. For my CGMA class, I recorded a thing where you can kind of export out of ZBrush. You can kind of name everything in ZBrush correctly, and then you can spit that as an FBX, and then you can bake that to your high res, which you can export out of ZBrush, and your low res, and you can put UVs on it. And then you can bake all of those pieces separately for animation. So if you want your trigger to move and all that stuff, Painter will bake all that stuff separately. But to answer your question, I use Keyshot if I just want to render my high-res stuff and do kind of paint over stuff like this. I probably shouldn't send out a whole bunch of videos because you're probably not watching me anymore. Don't watch those videos. Listen to me. You can watch those later. But this kind of thing. So this image, let me see if I can just go to the image. Let me know if, well, you know. So this, that reptile guy was basically, and I can pull him in actually. Load tool, desktop. You know what? Let's just do that. That'll be funner, I think. Let's do a quick spin through Keyshot, like maybe texturing this guy up, doing a little fun pass. Now you can also use ZBrush to do multiple passes too. It has a lot of really good rendering stuff in there. So let's see, there's that one, and then the Painter, yeah, so the Painter stuff I do, the Keyshot stuff I do. I've got a bunch of stuff on there. I don't even remember anymore. Go through my ArtStation here and go through my YouTube channel. I try and talk about all that stuff. I just forget like what's where and what's on Gumroad and what's on YouTube and what I've taught in Gemini and what I've taught at CG Master Academy and what I teach you guys on the stream and that kind of thing. But okay, let me make sure I have something up on my screen. Okay. So yeah, you guys want to do that real quick? Let's do that real quick. I'm going to simplify the ZBrush scene. I'm going to do a quick preferences initialize just to kind of dump everything out. And then I'm just going to do a quick load here. Intro. We'll see how far we get. So if we go here to subtool and make sure you guys can see, yes. I think this guy has a poly paint. Yeah, so we can take this poly paint, and even for his eyeball, I believe has a poly paint here. And this, he's got a little goopy area right here. There we go. So here's a guy and his horn. And his teeth too, but you don't really see his teeth, so we'll skip that. So we got this here, and we got a bunch of different subtools. So all of these things here, as I alt tap them, you're going to see those are all separate pieces. Now I could combine them into one subtool based on their material, but I can also do that in Keyshot. So we'll kind of skip that for now. So let's go ahead and throw that into Keyshot. We'll do render, Keyshot, turn off auto merge, go ahead and hit BPR, and that'll shoot it over to Keyshot. This is really going to test if I remember to go back into Keyshot. Let me bring back my OBS here. Okay, you guys can see Keyshot. Give it a second. It's not that heavy of a file, but oh, that's the other thing too I want to mention is if you have dynamic preview turned on in ZBrush, it will send over that mesh nicely smooth. So something to keep in mind. And also, I guess I should talk about this. Oh, if you're new to ZBrush and you've never used it before, but you like what you see, go to their website and you can download and use their free trial, and you can kind of get acquainted. If you go to my YouTube channel link that I just sent out, I've got an Intro to ZBrush Part 1 you can go through for free. It's like 50 videos. And of course, if you go to the Pixelogic website, they have a bunch of like Intro to ZBrush stuff as well. So you can go straight to the source, and learn everything you want to about ZBrush. And also keep in mind, I'm on my laptop and I'm streaming, so this isn't the best super duper experience. Again, I need to get a new laptop here. All right, it's getting there. How are we doing on questions? Yeah, and I dump, usually when I do anything, I'll post it on ArtStation. Yeah, I haven't done a Pixologic tutorial in a while. Some of them are a little bit dated, but yeah. All right, so we got our guy in here, and again, this one has our poly paint. So we double click this one. I'm probably going to keep this material as is. I might make a few changes, like make them a little bit more specular. Crank that up as white, and then these horns, probably the same thing. Good enough. So now I'm going to go over here and let's look at, like, we'll type in leather for our materials here. So we're going to go to our leather and our materials. I should have some leather. You can also do the cloud library. You can go to the Keyshot Cloud. I'm not going to bother making a window for this thing, but you can go here and you can do a search for leather, or I did denim on my channel yesterday, I think. And you can just download leather there. But I thought there was. Let's take a quick look through here. Cloth and leather. Yeah, I got leather. Leather black. I wonder why. Did I misspell it? I must have misspelled it. Sorry, I'm dumb. So we'll go leather black. We'll just throw that here. Now, we've done this before. If I do leather black and drag it onto here, it's going to make me two instances of that material. We've got leather black number 1 and leather black. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is go into our scene materials and just drag leather black from here, and we'll just cover that. So now we've got 2 leather blacks. We've got this hex material here. We'll do like leather gray, I suppose. And then you can double click that and you can change the diffuse and specular and roughness on that if you'd like. For this diffuse, actually, you know what? Let's go into our plastics here real quick. Yes. Actually, we could take this off if you alt-click it, or we can go ahead and just do a visibility, show all parts, and then we can just like turn, let's just show him. So there he is without his teeth. He's kind of a weirdo reptile creature here. So we can go here, visibility, show all parts. So back to this here. Let's go ahead and go back to our materials here, and we'll go back to leather black. And we'll drag it on here. And let's go, do we have a rubber? Actually, we don't even need a rubber. We can just go to plastic, hard, shiny, black plastic. We can drag that on, and now we can just rename this rubber. And I'm just going to make this rougher than the hard, shiny, black plastic. And now this rubber I can drag onto all sorts of stuff. We'll make that rubber. We'll make that rubber. We'll make this and this. So we're kind of grouping these together by material as we do this. We can go rubber here, and here, and here. Let's go ahead and get some, let's try some nickel polished over here. So we can do like maybe some metal pieces in here. And again, it's just mostly just drag and drop. Let's go ahead and do some hard, shiny plastic. We'll do, you know what, we already did red. Let's do blue. And double click this blue here, and we'll make it a little darker, a little more rich. Now we can just drag this to the different places we want that. And we can also break this up too. We can do black plastic for here. Maybe back in here. And we can also do maybe a light blue. Tone down this like so. Let's see. So yes, you do need a subtool for every part you want to put a different material on. You can group those subtools. I have like my GDC female ZBrush that does all like just 11 subtools, but they're all the same material, which I probably should have done that one. It would be faster. But it's also nice to have the ability to kind of go in here and just make those changes here. And if you don't like this blue, let's go here and change this. It's like maybe an orangey. We'll do like a Pixelogic orange. And then we'll change this one to like a yellowy, maybe an off orange here. Yeah, and really all it is just dragging and dropping the materials, which I'm just going to do really quickly. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Yeah, so this is a key shot. Sorry if everybody missed that. Yes, so if you want to make it used and scratched, you can do it in here. Oh boy, this is going to be a test. So I'm going to go into the material graph, which you guys can't see. Let me go ahead and pull this up. There's a couple different ways. You can do some of this in Keyshot. Let's see if I remember how to do it. It's not that one. Hold on. Properties. Okay, you guys can see this now. So I'm going to push this where I have it, and I'm going to zoom in over here. And so usually what I would do is, well, one thing you can do is, we'll do it this way first. So I've got my diffuse over here. So let's say I want to layer two materials over each other. So I'm going to go into labels here and add a label. And it doesn't really matter what label you have because we're just going to end up deleting it anyways. And then I'm just going to delete that texture map here. So now I have a plastic that is going into my label. The opacity for this plastic, and this plastic we can go ahead, and our original plastic was like kind of light red. So I'm going to go in here and kind of do like a faded kind of light red here. Now I want this plastic to only show up on the edges, right? So I need to go into here and go into our textures and occlusion here. And we can use this occlusion to kind of find our edges. So I can right click here and we can go to preview color or hit the C, and that'll kind of preview the color that we're getting from just this node, I guess you could call it. And I'm going to do inside, and I'm going to do fall off, crank that up, and then radius, crank that up. I'm trying to remember. Basically what I'm trying to do is just find edges in there. I think there might be even a better find edges in there, but this is the way I remember doing it back in the day. Fall off up, radius down. Let's see, that's where we turn off inside maybe. No, I think it was inside. Sorry, it's been a while since I've done this. And because usually, I mean, you can kind of see it's picking up the edges here. But once we kind of maybe just dial this back just a little bit. There we go. We're starting to pick up a little bit more here. Normal. Change our biases. And at this point, I'm just kind of moving sliders around. I can pretend like, oh yeah, just move your biases around to this number and it'll be exactly what you want. I have no clue what I'm doing. So I'm vaguely finding these edges, fall off and radius. Again, I don't do this very much, so don't take this as like, watch this expert do his thing. This is watch me fumble around and try and find edges. Anyway, I've kind of found some edges here, so I think, let's go ahead and do a utility, and we'll do color invert. So that'll go ahead and invert this. And now if we want to see this one, we can turn off preview color and then preview color for this one. And now we're getting kind of highlighted edges where we want that to go. And we can plug this into the opacity for this plastic, I believe. And now Again, you can just hit C to go out of that mode here. And now what we should have, if I make this really obvious, let's just make this white. You're going to start seeing it kind of fade around on these edges here. And of course, you can continue to kind of layer and grunge and put masks for all this different stuff. So that's one way to do it. Cool. Yeah, so this model is separated into subtools for the different materials here. If you texture in ZBrush, as far as like poly painting, if you're poly painting in ZBrush, that is vertex color, which can be exported to any program. In fact, if we hit, let's go ahead and knock this. We'll do like a light orange color here. Hit OK. I'm going to kill that, and we'll go ahead and get rid of this window here. And we'll talk about a few more windows here. Give me a second. There we go. In fact, this right here is, if we Alt tap this one right here is poly painted, just kind of brought in. So I don't know the hotkey for show everything again. There we go. But yeah, all these things are separate objects. But if you did want to bring those into another program, like for you could take your poly paint. I think I got UVs on this thing too. Let's just real quick, I'll show you. So in ZBrush, we've got this thing here. So just to see, I'm going to Alt tap this actually to get performance to go a little faster. I'm going to pause key shop, and then in here, I'm going to see if I have UVs on this thing. So I'm going to go to geometry. Well, let's go to texture map. I'm going to do create. Delete UV. No, I don't have UVs on this thing. You know what? Let's do UVs real quick. It's super easy to do. So what I'm going to do is drop this down to subdivision level 1. I'm going to go to, let me move this down because it's distracting me. I'm going to go to Z plugin, UV master, and I'm going to go to work on clone so I don't ruin anything on that model. I can leave it alone and just work on this thing. I'm just going to have this thing UV for me. It is symmetrical, so I can keep symmetry on. If I had poly groups on this thing, I could use that, but I don't. So I'm just going to say, okay, you can unwrap, and then I'll hit flatten. There's my UVs. Looks great. A lot of different control in here you can do, but just for now, that's fine. So now I can go over here to copy UVs, and we're going to go back to our model here, and we're going to go to paste UVs. And we didn't lose anything. We can still step back up through our subdivision levels here. So now if I want the color map, one way to get it is to go to texture map, and then you can just do new from poly paint. And now you've got your texture map just transferred onto this thing. You can do clone texture, and now you can export this. Before you export it, you may want to go to, I think you want to do a flip vertical. And there you go. So there's your poly paint that's baked off. You can also do under Z plugin, you can bake normal maps. Stroke brush plugin. We want to do multi-map exporter. You can bake, it'll take this high res to your low res, and you can do normal maps, ambient occlusion, poly paint. You can do cavity, vector displacement maps. You can tell it what map size you want. Here's your export options for all those things. So yeah, so if I was to take, like, I mean, this thing would probably choke Maya in particular. It's 3 million polygons with vert color and stuff, but ZBrush, this is the kind of thing that ZBrush handles like a champ. Really, really well, really fast. No problem. I got all this stuff on. We just UV'd it and then applied that to a 3 million polygon mesh, which, believe me, that's not easy for some programs. But for ZBrush it is. But yeah, so you can use this, and you can bake off maps, and then using these maps or baking the high-res information to a low-res mesh, you can make it run real time and throw it into Engine and stuff like that. But yeah, we're just doing source for now. We don't have time. I have 20 minutes left. Let me hop back into Capture 3. There we go. So yeah, I paused that here. And just really quickly, I'm going to throw on just a bunch of materials here just to kind of wrap this thing up here. So we're going to go to materials here. Make that leather black. Make this leather black. We've got orange here. Now, if I do decide I want to do this externally, I can take this label and I can go. So yeah, this is my label area. I can just delete that, and then I'll get rid of that edge scratching, because I can also do edge scratching in other programs. Oh, did I lose my? I dropped leather onto his face, which is what I didn't want to do. There we go. Materials here. But I do want to get rid of this label. I hope that made sense. Again, I'm no expert at, I mean, it's been a while, I should say, since I've done that. So glad it kind of worked. And we'll grab this material here. And we got nickel polish. Let's throw that where the metal goes. And I guess that would be, make that rubber here. We can make this leather. We can make this rubber. We can make this leather, I guess. We can go in here to nylon. Oops. And we can put that onto the fabric here. And now this one is going to have a texture on it. So if we double click that one, we go to textures here and change our scale down. And then we'll go back into our scene materials, and we'll just do, and I'm not going to do everything on here. I'm just trying to get a good enough amount before I go in. And I'm not going to go into Photoshop and do all this stuff, but I can walk you through how to get your maps out. And at that point, it's just a matter of overlaying grunges, doing a bunch of maps. I do walk through the making of that thing on my Intro to ZBrush Part 3 on my Gumroad. It's one of the bonus videos. I mean, I go through the whole making of this thing, kind of, just walking through ZBrush. But yeah, I don't think I'll have enough time to do a great job. Plus, I kind of want to stick with ZBrush and Keyshot Bridge while I'm in here. I don't want to be on their channel and end up doing, you know, 2 hours of Photoshop work. If you catch my drift. And let's just do, that's fine, nylon and black. Is that already metal? Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and just toss these on here. Now, one thing we do a lot, and I usually end up doing, is making scene sets so I can do different variants. So if we got one variant here, which is like our guy all decked out, I'm going to knock this metal back just a bit. There we go. So we got one guy, he's all decked out with all these different materials and stuff. And it looks like I missed some really obvious stuff. Normally I wouldn't care, but it's right up front. We can do better than that. Okay, so we want to keep this guy around, but we also want to do one where we can do a couple different variants. So we're going to go into scene here. Whoops. We can close that down and we can go to scene set. So I'm working on the default scene set. We're going to right click this, add a scene set. We'll do everybody's favorite. So on this one here, and this is just a really simple, easy one here. So while the clay one is active, we can just make this guy clay. And now we can do our whole like ZBrush backplate here. So let's do like this one. Now I can kind of make it look like he's on that little stand right there. And I think we do have the environment as the startup, and we can just hold down Control click and just kind of move this around so it kind of matches this. And then you can go into your camera and say, you know what, depth of field, I want this to be sharp here. And then we can change our f-stop to kind of blur things out as it goes further back. So you can do that kind of thing. Let's see, the texture mode is cool. And then if we want to, we can also go back. Let's just do environment of, so I'll walk you through the export settings if you want to do this too, of the default here. So we'll go back to our default. And then what I ended up doing is if you have Pro, you can go over here to render and you can do all the render passes, which is your depth pass, which in ZBrush I'll show you what that is as far as like your depth of field that you can put into lens blur. Geometric normal pass, clown pass is going to be all these different materials broken up into different colors, so you can use those as masks. You can render them all to a PSD if you choose PSD. And so you can just throw all of that in there when you hit render. Also another, oops, okay, thank you. Didn't mean to do that. Stop. So another thing you can do is you can go here to tune. Under matte, sorry. Really quickly, we'll do tune outline. And of course you can, this is on the default, let's switch back to clay. Double click that one, and I'm just gonna switch this one out with tune. And now on this one, you can go through here. So if you did want to find your edges and use those as a mask, it would be a simple matter of just going in here and changing your contour angle. Let's drop that down, and that'll pick up more or less edges. So you can save out a couple of these ones, and it'll just kind of give you a nice edge masking. Of course, I still got my camera depth of field on, so I'm going to turn that off. So all that cool stuff, I would use this as a mask to kind of get you there, if that makes sense. And then just layer them all up, and then eventually you will have what I sent out in those links above, which is my ArtStation stuff. So I'm going to close out of that here. And let me go back to OBS. There we go. So you guys can see that. And one thing I would do is make sure you don't have any high resolution textures in there. But for that depth pass, and of course all of that stuff you can do within ZBrush itself. It's got a very robust rendering thing. If you go back through the YouTube links I sent out, go back through the workshop, we do tons of, like we did the ZBrush stylized rendering and stuff like that, and the BPR filters. But just really quickly, if we go to, okay, great, let me drop this down here. If we go to render, we're going to turn off keyshot, and then we're going to do the BPR render pass. I'm just going to hit BPR, and we'll go ahead and turn on render properties here. We're going to do ambient occlusion. That'll be good. And then we'll just hit B. And you can also go down here and say, for example, our shadows are probably fine. I'm going to change that AO blur down a little bit and crank up the resolution and the rays just a bit. And then we'll hit BPR. And this is going to be a best preview render. While I'm just doing a quick render, what I'll usually do is drop that SPIX, that sub-pixel anti-aliasing quality. I'll drop that down to 0 usually. But I forgot this time. It seems to be going fast enough. And this will go ahead and spit out a bunch of render passes by default. So you're going to see we have our shaded view here. Now we have a depth pass, shadow pass, AO, and mask. So you can just save these out. We can go over here to our, you know, I'll just throw them on the desktop. Here, 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 and here. And then what you can also do is I'm going to hold down Shift and turn all of these poly paints off if I can. Let's see. Colorize should be, oh, Colorize isn't turning off for this one because actually what he has visible is his texture map. So we'll go ahead and turn that off. Dang it, and I moved the camera, so that messed it up. I'm going to drop this down to 0 and do that again. Oh, cool. Thanks for the support. Yeah, some of the stuff, I mean, the really, really early stuff I did was for Eat 3D. It's been a while. But yeah, that was fun stuff too. So let's see. I'm going to do this one. Yes, and then depth, save, yes, and then shadow, save, yes. Now I could have also saved that camera view out as a Zaplink document setting, or in the timeline movies we've done that before, but I forgot. And then this one I'm going to turn the polypaint back on. Well, I don't even have to do that. So really quickly, just to kind of show you some of that stuff. We're not going to spend too much time in there, but you can kind of patch all this stuff together. Let's do, so if you go in here and open, so all I get is it's all these cool render passes right at once, and then this depth, the depth pass, oh shoot, yeah, these are going to be, okay, so we see this one, and now we see this one. I'm just going to copy this one into the channels for the that depth pass here, and then the shadow pass, we can go ahead and copy this into a new layer, and then the AO pass, we can copy this into a new layer, and then this mask is going to be super useful. And you can just, I mean, you can go back and forth in ZBrush. We're not going to do it tonight because I don't have enough time, but oops, we're going to throw this one into the channels here. But I mean, I do cover this in Intro to ZBrush Part 3, I believe, pretty in depth. And half of it I don't even remember how to do anymore. It's one of those things where if I don't do it all the time, I forget. It's been a while since I've done that stuff. But just really basically, you can go here, and then you've got, you know, your shadow pass, which I believe is, yeah, I still got that baked in, so I'm just going to go ahead and kill that. The AO pass, we can go ahead and just do a quick multiply. You can throw levels on here, and you can just kind of, make that more contrasty. Of course, it's doing everything. If you hold down Alt, that'll link these two together, and now you'll just do a levels on your AO pass here to kind of make it more contrast if you want. You can also throw in here a hue saturation, and then you can do colorize, and you can make it a blue AO if you want to, and make it really saturated or not really saturated, whatever you want to do. And then we can also do lighting passes, but I think I moved the camera again because I'm dumb. But you can also hold down Control and then tap that one masking alpha. You can use this as a masking group here. So now you can throw a little layer behind here and maybe fill this with a different background if you want. Whatever you want to do. And also, the cool thing I like to do is, let's go ahead and double click. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. Is that lens blur, that height map here. So this map here is under alpha 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a Control A, Control C, and then Control V just to do a copy merged, and then we'll do a quick filter, blur, lens blur. And we can use that alpha 1 to go ahead and say, you know, you can click on the forehead to make it that focal distance, and then you can crank up that radius. So now it'll kind of just focus on the head and blur everything else out. And you can make it all pretty sharp if you crank the radius down, or you can crank it up and just continuously like really blur it out like crazy if you want to. You can make it subtle or as not as you want. You can also click back here and it'll make this all blurry, and then this will be in sharp. So you can just kind of click through and see what looks best for your lens blur. That's a favorite of mine. Awesome, cool, good to hear. I'm glad that stuff works out and isn't too hard to follow, and is easy enough. All right, we are close to quitting time. Let me go ahead and close out of there. Anything else? We got 5 minutes. Did I cover everything? Did I talk about everything? I have my questions here. If I miss any question, I'm sorry. I can hit them up next time, next week. If I missed any, none of these is what I'm going to go over here on this channel. So I think we're good. We did mouth and teeth and walk through a bunch of concept-y brush stuff. But yeah, hopefully you guys have some good resources now, and you can go through and watch some of those videos. You can just under the videos, if you leave a question, I'll usually get a notification, and if I can, I'll go through and answer those questions. I'm trying to be pretty good about it. Trying not to let too many fall through the cracks. But anyways, I will bid you guys adieu, and I will see you next week. I'm not sure about this. I think the schedule for what month is this? 21st. Yeah, so it should be next week, Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. And no problem, guys. Thanks for showing up. Hopefully it was fun. Hopefully there was something in there that was worthwhile. It's always fun to kind of just go through here and have a good time showing you guys stuff. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Thanks, everybody.